The one man destined to save the entire world gets isekai'd and immediately decides to defect to the demon army. This all kicks off with a colossal screw-up by the goddess, who was supposed to drop our hero into a safe, beginner-friendly village. Instead, he materializes right in the heart of the Demon King's headquarters, face to face with their single most powerful warrior. But our guy is completely oblivious, because the goddess hyped him up about his first stop being a total cakewalk. He was promised nothing but pushover mobs. So, with zero hesitation, the hero charges the demon, and the outcome is exactly what you'd expect. He gets absolutely demolished. And just like that, the hero is tossed into a dungeon cell. Not one to quit, he starts screaming that he wants a rematch with that minotaur. His raging tantrum, however, attracts the base's second-in-command, Captain Gobso. The goblin captain just casually sets his massive greatsword on the floor, and the thunderous impact nearly gives the hero a heart attack. The instant he realizes that weapon is the real deal, our hero pipes down immediately. Gobso growls that if the kid causes any more trouble, he'll be boiled into a stew, before turning his back and leaving. Now alone in the darkness, the hero spirals, replaying the goddess's promises of a chill, laid-back adventure filled with the village chief's 18 smoking hot daughters. He has no idea it was all a complete lie, a desperate sales pitch the goddess used just to meet her monthly quota for shipping souls to other worlds. As he's trying to process this nightmare, a voice echoes from the next cell, asking if he's the new hero. He fires back, demanding to know who's talking, and discovers the guy next door is a hero too. They're currently rotting in the slave dungeon beneath the Demon King's castle. The hero in the next cell just smirks and yells out, asking how many of the other self-proclaimed heroes are still kicking. In an instant, the entire dungeon erupts with voices, as all sorts of S-rank heroes announce they're still alive. His neighbor breaks it down for him. There are over 100 heroes trapped down here, all under the thumb of that savage minotaur, Loudron, and his goon, Gobso. The other hero's voice cracks as he blames their hellish situation on a demon named Rachel. That name sends a shockwave through our boy. Rachel is the name of the goddess. He quickly learns that while a hero is supposed to start in a city, Rachel's epic fail of a teleportation job got every single one of them sent to the wrong coordinates. And since these newbie heroes have zero actual skills yet, they were completely powerless against this disastrous spawn point. The very next day, our hero, Hyun-suk, gets a brutal taste of what a living hell really is. His new life is now an endless cycle of forced labor for the Demon King, and the pay is exactly zero. To make this fresh hell even worse, when the workday is finally over, Gobso uses him as his personal goblin Uber. As he hauls the tiny goblin back to the slave dungeon, Hyun-suk silently plots the day. He'll finally get to crush his captor. Utterly drained, he gets back to his cell and collapses for a moment, but then remembers the goddess mentioning a special hero privilege, the status window. He immediately pulls up the interface to get a look at his stats. While they're definitely a cut above a normal person's, he just chalks it up to his past life as a world-class boxing champion. But when he clocks his endurance stat at 31, the hero in the next cell is absolutely floored. His neighbor can't believe it, saying that having a stat that high at level 1 is insane. Hyun-suk couldn't care less, pointing out that at the end of the day, he's still just a slave. But despite his apathy, the other hero is convinced Hyun-suk is different, that he has the raw potential to break out and become a legend. Late that night, he secretly checks his status window again, making sure he didn't miss anything. He eventually stumbles upon a tab for something called Hero Points, and he remembers asking the other hero about it earlier that day. The guy swore he didn't have a feature like that. As Hyun-suk starts wondering if he's the only real hero here, a blinding flash of light reveals the goddess, Rachel. She gives him a cheerful hello and offers to explain what the hero points are for, calling them the secret sauce for forging the ultimate hero. Instead of being thankful for the tip, Hyun-suk explodes with rage, telling her he's about to rearrange her face for what she's done. After he gets a few good swings in, the goddess begs him to stop, confessing that her massive blunder was caused by spilling her morning coffee all over the magic circle, which completely screwed up his teleportation. As punishment from the big gods upstairs, she's been assigned as his personal goddess until he manages to defeat the Demon King. She tries to cheer him up, saying that as a triple S-rank hero, the job should be a piece of cake, but Hyun-suk is not having any of it. He spent his entire previous life fighting, only to die a virgin who'd never even been on a date. He's sick of the violence, and tells her he just wants a quiet life. This leaves the goddess absolutely speechless, since she can't go back to her world until the mission is finished. But before she can launch into another sales pitch, a noise from outside the cell spooks Hyun-suk. He frantically signals for her to shut up, but she brushes him off, bragging that she can just use invisibility magic to hide. The visitor is Gobso, and he's here to tell Hyun-suk that the big boss, Loudron, wants to see him. So, Loudron wants to see Hyun-suk in his office, like, right now. Apparently, Gobso's been gassing up our hero's insane work ethic, and it's officially piqued the boss's interest. Loudrin is seriously impressed with the hero's hustle and straight up offers him the position of chief slave. The invisible goddess is freaking out, completely horrified by this turn of events. Seeing the demon as a rival for Hyunsok's loyalty, she frantically whispers in his ear to turn it down, insisting that a human hero can never, ever bend the knee to the demon army. But instead, a massive grin spreads across Hyunsok's face as he drops to his knees with a loud thud, thanking Loudrin and vowing he won't let him down. Fast forward 3 days, and Hyunsok is officially starting his new gig. He's pushing an absolutely brutal pace, clowning on the other slaves by yelling that his grandma runs faster, and making it clear that nobody is going home until every last task is done. He is absolutely vibing with his new power as a slave supervisor, letting out a deep, booming laugh at the authority he now commands. This whole performance leaves the other slaves down below completely shook. They're whispering back and forth, wondering if he's totally lost his mind, and trying to process how this guy was ever a human hero. Even the goddess Rachel, watching from the sidelines, thinks he's going way overboard. She materializes right in front of him, calls him insane, and warns that they're going to be in deep trouble if he keeps this up. Internally, Hyunsok just brushes her off, thinking of her as a clueless little sparrow who just doesn't get the master plan. He then snaps his attention back to a slave on the ground, demanding they quit moving like a turtle and get back to work. After driving the slaves to their absolute breaking point, he makes a big show of saluting towards Loudrin's office, loudly declaring his undying loyalty to the job. This bootlicking act makes the goddess absolutely furious. She launches into a non-stop lecture about a hero's duty until Hyunsok literally can't take another second of her nagging. To shut her up for good, he pulls up his hero panel. The display spells it out plain and simple. Due to a screw-up by an idiot goddess, he was teleported straight into the Demon King's dungeon. His current objective is crystal clear: earn the trust of the demon army officer, Loudrin. He points out to the goddess that he's just following his mission objectives, but she's still not buying it. This little reminder finally gets her to pipe down and stop nagging him while he's trying to work. She starts spiraling, wondering if that really is his mission, and questioning why the higher-ups, the only ones who could change it, would issue an order that wild. While she's lost in her own head, Gobso shows up to tell Hyunsok that Loudrin wants to see him again. Hyunsok practically skips to the office. After watching him for 2 days, Loudrin gives the young man a nod of approval for his hardcore efforts. But when Hyunsok catches a weird vibe from the commander, he snaps into a salute to immediately shift the mood. Before things can get any more awkward, he pitches a wild idea. Train the slaves into an elite work crew, where one person can do the work of 3. He makes a bold promise that the Demon King's entire castle will be standing in less than a week. At first, Loudrin is skeptical, pointing out that human bodies are way too fragile for that kind of intense regimen. But, since the idea is coming from Hyunsok, he gives it the green light. Hyped by the approval, Hyunsok bolts back to the dungeon. The second he arrives, Rachel just bursts into tears, wailing that her hero has officially gone crazy, bowing to demons and tormenting his own people. Totally over the drama, Hyunsok finally decides to reveal his real game plan. He lays it all out. He has zero interest in being an enemy of humanity. He's actually going to use the super-trained slaves to spark a rebellion. He's already done the math. It's 3,000 slaves against a measly 500 demon soldiers. Plus, there's a human base just a stone's throw away, the perfect spot to fall back to after they break out. His plan is so solid that the goddess actually looks a little impressed for once. For proving he's more than just a meathead fighter, and for successfully getting on Loudrin's good side, Hyunsok banks 100 hero points. He eagerly pulls up the hero shop, ready to see what kind of epic loot is up for grabs. But the selection is a total joke. He finds an F-rank skill for holding his breath and another F-rank skill that lets him hold in his poop for a longer time. The goddess cracks up at his disappointment, teasing him not to worry because the level 2 shop might offer even bigger portions of, well, you know. Hyunsok cuts her off, firing back that she was the one who said these points were the key to becoming the ultimate hero. The next day kicks off with the slaves chanting the Third Legion's motto, declaring themselves proud members of the great demon army who vow to crush the humans. Watching this from his tower, Loudrin is beaming, thinking to himself that the new kid definitely hasn't disappointed him. But his moment of pride is shattered when Gobso bursts in, totally panicked, with news that the human army is on the move. The 8th Division has already been wiped out, and it's just a matter of time before the enemy is knocking at their front door. Even though Loudrin hates the idea of ditching the nearly finished fortress, Gobso convinces him they need to bounce, like, immediately. Glancing down at the courtyard, Loudrin realizes that the most valuable thing he has right now is Hyunsok. He orders Gobso to lead the retreat, saying he'll catch up with the boy later. Loudrin then launches himself out of the window, a move that Hyunsok instantly clocks from below. Our hero knows what's coming. Combat training. The mission's scrubbed, he says, noting the commander has had eyes on him. Just then, Laudren touches down right behind Hyunsuk. He barks that there's no time left, they have to fall back, now. Hyunsuk is reeling, completely thrown by the sudden change of plans, but there's no time to question it, because the human army suddenly descends upon them, following their own commander's orders to the letter. The humans swarm in, and the battlefield explodes into chaos. The enemy commander's eyes lock onto Laudren, identifying him with a shout. It's the Red Nightmare. He bellows at his troops, making Laudren their #1 target. And in that moment, a dark thought sparks in Hyunsuk's mind. This could be his shot. He imagines it, one blade in Laudren's back, and he could waltz back to human society as a bona fide hero. But as he's weighing his options, a human knight rockets toward them at blinding speed. Laudren doesn't even flinch, he just reaches out and casually shatters the knight's skull. Then he slams the lifeless body into the ground. The impact sends a shockwave tearing across the field, leveling almost all the human soldiers nearby. After that insane display of power, Laudren turns to Hyunsuk and asks if he's okay. Absolutely petrified, Hyunsuk snaps to a salute and confirms he's all good. He promises to pull back at once. Despite Laudren annihilating an entire squad by himself, the sheer pressure from human reinforcements keeps coming, so they're forced to continue the retreat. Hyunsuk is in shock, feeling like his whole adventure, his entire second chance at life, is already over. He realizes Laudren is so powerful that a single, devastating strike has just demolished his dreams of ever escaping and returning to humanity. The goddess tries to find a silver lining, suggesting that a trip to the Demon Army HQ is a prime opportunity for gathering intel, but Hyunsuk just shoots her down, calling her a liar. Their bickering stirs a sleeping Laudren. "Did you say something?" Laudren asks. Hyunsuk immediately backpedals, claiming he was just mumbling about what an incredible honor it is to be in the commander's presence. Hearing this, Laudren's stern expression softens. He decides that as soon as they reach headquarters, he's going to officially recommend Hyunsuk for the Demon Army. Hyunsuk freezes, a cold dread washing over him. He realizes that any hope of a future escape is now practically zero. 5 hours later, their convoy rolls up to the imposing Demon Army headquarters. Upon their arrival, Laudren gets ready to bring Hyunsuk before the commander, even though he admits that this whole introduction is a little unorthodox. Still, he's sure the commander will take a shine to the kid, but he gives Hyunsuk a chilling warning. Watch every single word you say. One wrong move in there could be your last. The two of them arrive outside a massive hall, where Laudren announces their presence to Commander Hermes. A soft, feminine voice from inside gives them permission to enter. Once inside, Laudren immediately tries to take the fall for losing the fortress, but Hermes waves it off, shifting the blame to a supply officer who failed to deliver materials. She remarks coolly that she'll have a body bag ready for that officer. As she speaks, a terrifying aura floods the room, making it almost impossible for Hyunsuk to even breathe. His limbs start shaking on their own, and he recognizes that her oppressive power is on a completely different level from anyone he's ever met. Finally, Hermes retracts her aura and asks who Hyunsuk is. Laudren introduces him as the person he'd mentioned before, declaring his intention to have him join their ranks. In a blink, Hermes appears directly in front of Hyunsuk, her interest piqued by the recommendation. But, she notes, his human body makes him a walking snack for everyone else at headquarters. Terrified, Hyunsuk's eyes dart to Laudren for help. Laudren promises to take him under his wing personally, but Hermes shoots down the idea. She thinks it's a complete waste of a high-ranking officer's time to train some random human. To solve this little problem, Hermes reaches into her own mouth and starts digging around as her body contorts violently. After a grotesque moment, she pulls a bizarre creature out from the top of her head, introducing it as Popo. She names Hyunsuk as the creature's official pet guardian, then asks him if he thinks Popo is cute. Though Hyunsuk finds the thing absolutely horrifying, the immense pressure from Hermes forces him to agree, choking out that it's an honor to care for Popo. Hermes just tosses the creature at him. Then she adds one last warning. Popo needs to be fed on a strict schedule because when he gets hungry, he gets angry, and he has a nasty habit of eating his guardians. And with that, Hyunsuk is officially a member of the Demon Army, with a brand new hero mission. To win the affection of the creature Popo, he stares at the sleeping monster, wondering how in the world this is supposed to make him a hero. His thoughts are cut short when a balding goblin waddles into the room, introducing himself as Hyunsuk's new partner. In taking care of the pet, Hyunsuk puts on a polite smile, all while thinking that this goblin would ditch him in a heartbeat if things went south. The goblin starts bossing Hyunsuk around, telling him they need to get dinner ready. But before he can even finish his sentence, Popo's eyes snap open. The goblin shrieks, diving behind Hyunsuk and trying to shove him forward as an offering. "He can eat you," the goblin screams, trying to hold Hyunsuk in place. He figures one of them has to die, and it might as well be the new guy. But the goblin seriously underestimated Hyunsuk's strength. He gets tossed aside like a rag doll. After Popo finishes its goblin-sized snack, it's still hungry. Its head slowly turns, its gaze fixing on the invisible goddess, Rachel. Her terrified scream echoes in Hyunsuk's head. Save me. As Popo's rage spirals out of control, his fury becomes so intense that he finally targets Hyunsuk himself. Desperate to shut the creature down, a wild idea sparks in Hyunsuk's mind. He blurts out that they're going outside to play, and just like that, the rage vanishes from Popo's eyes. The creature immediately leaps into his arms, a picture-perfect reaction that was exactly what Hyunsuk was betting on. A moment later, Hyunsuk is carrying Popo outside, even though he has absolutely no idea where the kitchen is. As they're wandering aimlessly, a goblin materializes right in front of them. Without missing a beat, Hyunsuk calls out to it, demanding to know where the kitchen is. The goblin stammers that the kitchen's to the right before scrambling away without a single glance back. The whole display makes Hyunsuk burst out laughing. He wonders if everyone in the demon army is that much of a coward. He figures he can definitely get used to leveraging the dog's fearsome reputation. But just as a proud smirk crosses his face, he turns his head only to find Popo has completely vanished. He and the goddess frantically scan the area for the dog, and luckily, their frantic search pays off when they finally spot Popo again. Hyunsuk calls him his precious pup, telling him how freaked out he was, but as he glances down, he realizes something is terribly wrong. He asks Popo, "Did you just bite someone to death?" Before he can even process the shock, a piercing shout echoes from nearby. The voice screams that Captain Regis has been devoured. Rachel's playful smile instantly freezes on her face as she knows there's only one culprit. Hyunsuk immediately scoops up Popo and breaks into a dead sprint, with a swarm of goblins hot on his heels. Unfortunately for the goblins, their stubby legs are no match for Hyunsuk's pace. But in a terrible twist of fate, Hyunsuk and the others run straight into a dead end. When they whip around, they see a massive horde of goblins has already sealed them in. One goblin snarls at the human, declaring he'll be taken down for murdering their captain. Another goblin licks its chops, hoping the captain isn't fully digested yet, because he's always dreamed of tasting what a captain tastes like. Facing this almost hopeless showdown, a crazy idea ignites in Hyunsuk's mind. Maybe, just maybe, he can bluff his way out. He shakes Popo in his arms and bellows, "How dare you be so disrespectful?" He challenges them. "Do you have any idea who this creature is?" He declares, "This is Popo." As the name drops, the goblins on sight almost flinch backwards, every single one of them, knowing the terrifying reputation of Commander Hermes. They know it's the commander's pet, but there's still one goblin who isn't scared of dying, and accuses the human of capping. In response, Hyunsuk crouches down and gives Popo a few calculated strokes under the chin, to trigger its beast mode. The second he lets go, Popo lunges at the skeptical goblin, and just like that, in a brutal 15 seconds, Popo has devoured the goblin without a trace. He then asks, "Anyone else, not a believer?" Every last goblin drops to the ground in submission. But in that exact moment, a new voice, Hermes's voice, chimes in from behind Hyunsuk. "Why is it so noisy over here?" she muses. Looks like a cute little newcomer is up to something interesting. Next thing he knows, he's been summoned to her office. After she gets the full story on what went down, Hermes just throws her head back and laughs. She asks if he's seriously using Popo's reputation to survive, and seeing this, Hyunsuk immediately drops to his knees to admit his fault. But Hermes doesn't see anything wrong with what he did. She lifts Hyunsuk's chin and calls him a clever human, but informs him that as a man, he needs to learn the demon army's way of solving things, with brute force. Hermes returns to her throne and asks if he has any interest in becoming a senior officer in her army. Hyunsuk is completely floored. He's thinking that with his trash-tier skills, the only path to becoming an officer is to sell his body. Hermes clarifies that with his current power level, it's a long shot, and then she lays down the rules of the game. She explains that demons climb the ranks through combat, and tells him he's banned from using her or Popo's name for protection anymore. She offers to shield him for 1 month. After that, he has to defeat an opponent she handpicks. If he wins, he earns another month of her protection. He must keep winning until he claws his way up to the rank of battalion commander. Hyunsuk gulps and asks what happens if he loses, to which Hermes flashes a wicked grin. She suggests he better make sure he dies fighting. With no other options, Hyunsuk has to agree, especially since she's already picked his first opponent. He feels like he's on death row with only 30 days left to live. He trudges dejectedly to the kitchen to find Popo some food, but when he gets there, he finds the doorway smeared with blood. He only dares to peek his head inside, poised to bolt at any second, and squeaks out a greeting. A crimson goblin named Kulkin turns his head and identifies him as the human the commander was talking about. Hyunsuk quickly forces a smile and a nod, explaining he's there to get some food for Popo. Without a second thought, the goblin flatly tells him there isn't any. The answer stuns, Hyunsuk, and Kulkan explains that he's under no obligation to feed the mutt. He says the commander's only order was that they weren't allowed to harm him. Kulkan tells Hyunsuk that if he wants meat, he'll have to join the hunt himself. He gestures to a pack of goblins who are actively carving up and eating a Captain Puck, commenting on how delicious he is. The gruesome scene leaves Hyunsuk frozen in horror, as it finally dawns on him that these aren't chefs, they're predators, and he has to fight like hell to avoid becoming Popo's next meal. He dives headfirst into the hunt. Right out of the gate, a lethal threat lunges for him, but out of nowhere, a squad of goblins intercepts the attack, taking the hit for him. Staring down at the mangled beast, he can't help but wonder, who's the real prey here? Rachel's voice snaps him out of it, urging them to bail while they still have the chance. Hyunsuk is all for it, but the second he moves to retreat, Kulkan's voice cuts through the air, telling him to stand down. The reason? The hunt is already over. Hyunsuk is floored. They just annihilated that colossal monster in a mere 12 seconds. But their victory came at a brutal cost. 13 goblins were killed in action, and another 25 were gravely wounded. Kulkan is completely unfazed by the losses. In fact, he seems pleased, simply ordering the survivors to recover before the next slaughter. As the gears turn in his head, Hyunsuk scraps his plan to escape. Rachel, confused, asks if he's seriously going to team up with these monsters to hunt, but he shoots that idea down, explaining that he doesn't have to fight with them. A light bulb goes off. As long as he gets a piece of the action on every kill, he can farm experience and level up like crazy. He hatches the ultimate kill-steal strat, just swoop in for the final blow, and he can absorb all the EXP with minimal effort. Rachel is shook, calling him a genius one second and a dirty cheater the next. But Hyunsuk doesn't care. He's dead set on getting OP within the month. So, he marches right up to Kulkan. The hulking chef seems to peer straight into his soul, acknowledging his return after nearly bolting. Hyunsuk just plays it cool. He declares that he wants in on the next hunt. Kulkan's gaze intensifies, a silent, piercing stare that sends a jolt of ice through Hyunsuk's veins. Hyunsuk's mind races. Is this demon different from the others? The tension shatters as Kulkan erupts in a deep, booming laugh. He finds it absolutely adorable that a puny human is talking so tough. Thinking fast, Hyunsuk lays it on thick, crediting the chef's powerful aura, and the flattery works. A little too well, Kulkan announces that Hyunsuk will lead the next hunt. The declaration hits Hyunsuk like a truck. He just wanted to leech EXP, not be the team captain. He immediately tries to backpedal, saying a lowly human has no right to lead noble demons. But their argument is cut short when a terrified goblin scrambles into the clearing. It blurts out a frantic report to Kulkan. A pack of wild wolves is on the attack. While the goblin is absolutely losing its mind, Kulkan remains perfectly still, his hand slowly closing around the handle of the massive cleaver on his back. To him, the wolves are just more fresh ingredients. Then he says to his goblin horde, "Let's go." A sly grin spreads across Hyunsuk's face. This is perfect. All he has to do is time his final strike. Just then, Rachel pops up beside him, whispering that she's got his back. Before he can react, she casts a spell, and a surge of power floods his body, amplifying his physical strength for the next 3 minutes. She's totally expecting a thank you, but instead gets a fist waved in her face as Hyunsuk demands to know why she had a buff like this, and didn't use it during the last life-or-death fight. Feeling the power coursing through him, Hyunsuk's confidence skyrockets. He sizes up the enemy. Only 5 black wolves. He explodes into action, launching himself at a wolf already on its last breath and slamming his fist into it, triggering 2 level-up notifications back-to-back. He checks his stats. No, wait. That single kill steal just netted him 4 entire levels. But his celebration is cut short. He spots a goblin about to finish off another wolf. Without a second thought, he shoves the creature aside, yelling, "Whoops, my foot slipped." Gazing at the downed wolves, a hungry look flashes in Hyunsuk's eyes. He licks his lips. Every single last hit is going to be his. With his expert-level leadership, the 5 black wolves are wiped out in record time. Hyunsuk is ready to dip and check his new stats, but Kulkan's voice stops him cold. The chef declares it's time for the feast, saying it's a chef's special right to savor the freshest kill. He holds out a slab of raw, dripping meat, insisting that since Hyunsuk contributed to the hunt, he should have the first taste. Hyunsuk stares at the bloody thing, his stomach churning, but saying no to this monster just isn't an option. So, he squeezes his eyes shut and forces down a bite. The texture isn't terrible, but chomping on it raw and unseasoned is absolutely disgusting. But as he chews the bland, gamey flesh, a brilliant idea sparks in his mind. What if he could cook something actually delicious? Could he use food to manipulate these demons? He doesn't waste a second. He pulls up the hero shop and instantly buys a bottle of MSG. Rachel is absolutely losing it. She can't believe he's spending precious hero points on something as basic as seasoning. She lectures him that even if the demons like the taste, so what? It's not going to change anything. and he needs to focus on the bigger picture. Hyunsuk completely tunes her out. Instead, he grabs a cut of wolf meat, throws it on a fire, and gets to work, ready to shut her up with pure results. Just watch, he tells her, boasting that with this, he could make a leather boot taste like a gourmet meal. The second he sprinkles the magic powder over the perfectly seared, medium-rare steak, an explosion of savory aroma fills the air. Hyunsuk practically crowns himself the culinary god of this world, feeling a god-tier level of satisfaction as he admires his masterpiece. He rushes the dish straight to the head chef, Kulkan, knowing that hot off the grill is irresistible, but the demon barely gives it a look before politely turning him down. "I'm full," Kulkan grunts. But Hyunsuk isn't taking no for an answer, hyping it up as his ultimate creation. He basically begs the chef to bless him by taking a single bite, dramatically claiming he could die happy right then and there. Worn down by this pathetic display, Kulkan finally relents. He takes the steak, he lifts it to his mouth, and he takes a bite. The flavor instantly rockets the chef back to his childhood, the taste of his mother's cooking flooding his senses. Utterly floored, Kulkan expresses his gratitude to Hyunsuk. He shoves a massive sack of premium meat into Hyunsuk's arms as payment and insists he hit him up anytime he needs a favor. Hyunsuk hauls the prime cuts back to his room and calls out for Popo. But the moment his voice echoes in the chamber, Popo launches itself at him, jaws gaping wide for the kill. In a desperate move, Hyunsuk yanks the fresh meat from the bag, barely managing to divert the creature's ravenous hunger. He tells his monstrous buddy to dig in and eat its fill. With a reliable food source now locked down, Hyunsuk has officially flipped the script from being potential prey to becoming Popo's master. After wolfing down 30 kilograms of raw meat, Popo's affection level for Hyunsuk skyrockets. A system notification pops up, congratulating him for clearing the quest and securing Popo's loyalty, netting him a cool 200 hero points. This victory sends Hyunsuk's confidence through the roof. He can't help but smirk, knowing everything unfolded exactly as he'd planned. He immediately pulls up his status menu, a move that leaves Rachel, who's been watching from the sidelines, completely stunned. She scoffs, asking if he's trying to save those 22 unspent attribute points for his next life. Hyunsuk instantly claps back that a certain goddess never bothered to explain what they were for, which immediately gets Rachel to shut her mouth. Conceding that it's her duty to school him on the world's mechanics, she dives into an explanation of the 4 main attribute categories: strength, agility, stamina, and magic power. But Hyunsuk cuts her off, pointing to a 5th stat he sees on the screen called charm. Rachel clarifies that charm is a whole different ballgame, a hidden attribute you can't just get by selecting a class. It can only be leveled up through direct training. She then cheekily adds that, from her perspective, Hyunsuk's charm stat with male monsters is already off the charts. Getting back on track, she explains that physical stats are king in the early game, but the entire meta shifts later on, when magic power becomes the most dominant force. Hyunsuk takes this intel to heart and immediately dumps most of his points into his physical attributes. Rachel then tells him his next move is to visit the hero shop and pick up the basic principles of magic control, a starter guide that should run him about 100 hero points. But here's the catch. Hyunsuk scours the shop's inventory over and over, but the guide is nowhere to be found, leaving Rachel utterly bewildered. She keeps insisting she remembers it being one of the most basic, common items available. Hyunsuk just heaves a massive sigh. For a split second, he'd thought his goddess might actually prove useful, but he quickly realized he'd gotten his hopes up for nothing. Rachel is still fuming, swearing the item has to be in there. 3 weeks fly by in a flash of intense grinding, and during that time, Hyunsuk finally smashes through to level 100. He reflects on how the grind felt way longer than he'd anticipated. He concludes that he must be the most dedicated hero in this entire world, though the relentless, brutal training leaves his body screaming in agony. "What are you even whining about?" Rachel asks, suggesting he's basically become a celebrity idol. That single word triggers something in Hyunsuk, and he straight up smacks Rachel to the ground. She looks completely wronged, explaining she was just trying to compliment him. She points out that reaching level 100 usually takes at least half a year, so she honestly meant no offense. Hyunsuk just retorts that she totally had it coming. Right as they're about to argue more, the door slams open and a goblin frantically sprints inside. He frantically addresses Hyunsuk as Beast Tamer and blurts out that the commander is demanding to see him immediately. Hearing the summons, Hyunsuk doesn't dare waste a second and rushes straight to Hermes's office. His physical glow-up is so intense that even Hermes is taken aback. In under a month, his physique has become noticeably more powerful, and his magic reserves have doubled. Hyunsuk quickly improvises an excuse, trying to pass it off as the result of working hard to find food for Popo. But his weak cover story doesn't fool Hermes' sharp eyes for a second. She cuts right through the crap and asks if it's because of the hero system. A cold sweat immediately drips down Hyunsuk's back. She knows. Hermes slowly rises from her seat, She tells him she saw through his charade from the very first moment they met. The only reason she stayed quiet, she explains, was because he had the powerful backing of Laudren, and now, with the duel just days away, there's a new reason to keep his secret. Suddenly, a terrifying, suffocating aura explodes from Hermes as she transforms into her true form and lunges straight at Hyunsuk. She stops dead just inches from his face and snarls a warning. If he values his life, he'd better bust his ass and give her a performance she'll enjoy. After being dismissed, Hyunsuk storms back to his quarters, his mind racing. What kind of performance could possibly entertain that monster? Is she looking for a flashy spectacle or just absolute, brutal domination? He knows that if he fails to satisfy Hermes, he's dead meat. Rachel, meanwhile, proves to be as consistently useless as ever, offering zero helpful input and just panicking about their inevitable doom. Tuning her out, Hyunsuk decides to open the hero shop again, figuring that knowing his enemy is the only path to victory. The problem is, aside from his opponent's name, they have zero intel. So, he decides to purchase the next best thing, a power gauge. To get a read on combat power, he points the device at Rachel, and it flashes a reading of 375. But without any context, that number is completely meaningless to him. Rachel suggests he scan himself, stepping behind the gadget to aim it right at him. The readout that pops up absolutely floors her, and she immediately asks if the device is broken because it's showing Hyunsuk's combat power is an insane 1,560. Hyunsuk snatches the scouter back, asking what the big shock is, and pointing out that it's obvious. She's the weakest one in the group. Rachel's eyes start to well up with tears as she explains that before she was yanked into this world, her power level was over 10,000. To prove the scouter isn't busted, Hyunsuk decides to check Popo's power. He's stunned when the screen screams 47,400, muttering that he can't believe they're both weaker than a dog. Even wondering out loud if Popo is some kind of supermutt, he decides to take the scanner outside to check on the locals. He quickly finds the weakest ones are the goblin kids, while most of the grunts are hovering around his level, but every single one of the commanders easily breaks the 10,000 mark. Rachel confirms that his next opponent is a platoon leader, named Iskalkin, who's apparently a half-orc rocking a pig's head. Hyunsuk guesstimates a platoon leader's power should be somewhere around 3,000, and figures that with a little grinding, he can totally take him. However, reality smacks him right across the face when he finally lays eyes on his actual opponent. A cold sweat breaks out on Hyunsuk's skin when he sees the guy's power level is over 6,000, realizing that picking a fight with him would be a straight-up suicide mission. As he's frozen in shock, the hero system pings with a notification, flat-out stating that his chance of beating the pigman is practically zero. It acknowledges that his refusal to quit in impossible situations is his greatest strength, and then, it offers him a quest. Jack up his combat power to 3,000 within a single week. The reward is a sweet 300 hero points. A wide grin spreads across Hyunsuk's face, feeling like the quest dropped at the most clutch moment possible. He swears that no matter what it takes, he's going to clear this and survive to see the end, telling both the Observer and Hermes to just sit back and watch. The very next morning, Hyunsuk strolls back into the kitchen where Kulkan is already working. Spotting Hyunsuk's power scanner, Kulkan can't resist commenting on it, calling it a pretty slick fashion accessory, and asking where he got it from. Hyunsuk just scratches his head and fibs that he saw a bunch of other guys wearing one, so he figured he should get one too. Kulkan turns away, grumbling that he'll never understand the fashion sense of kids these days. Before telling Hyunsuk to get his gear ready for the hunt, Hyunsuk snaps back with a respectful, "Yes, sir." While Kulkan's back is turned, Hyunsuk quickly scans him with the power gauge and is blown away by a reading of over 35,000. He realizes this guy is on a completely different level from a normal commander. He then quickly scans everyone else in the kitchen and sees that their combat power is all way higher than any of the regular soldiers. He wonders if this is the kind of strength you build from constantly fighting monsters. Taking in the scene, an idea suddenly sparks in Hyunsuk's mind. He thinks that if he can find someone here with a similar power level to go a few rounds with, he could finally get a real sense of his own capabilities. He walks up to Commander Kulkan and asks for permission to have a sparring match with one of the kitchen staff. Kulkan is clearly thrown by the unexpected request for a duel. Hyunsuk explains that he believes this type of training will be way more effective for his growth. Kulkan gets a serious look. He feels that for a human, Hyunsuk is already plenty strong, and there's no need to rush his training. Hyunsuk puts on a disappointed face and sighs that it's a real shame because he brought some prime meat to grill as a thank you today, but he guesses they'll just have to save it for another time. As Hyunsuk makes a show of putting the meat back in his pack, Kulkan's arm shoots out and grabs him. "We're doing this right now," he declares. "So who do you want to fight?" The kitchen soldiers all gather around when they hear the news, buzzing about what's happening and asking if it's time for the hunt. They're told that Hyun-sok and Gorbakam are about to have a sparring match. A couple of the slow-witted kitchen staff start a very serious discussion. They're worried that if Hyun-sok dies, there will be no one left to grill the meat, and since a life without meat is unbearable, they suggest just killing Gorbakam first to be safe. Kolkan steps in to set them straight, telling the idiots to shut up. He clarifies that sparring isn't a fight to the death, it's just a way to test each other's skills. He then turns to Gorbakam, Hyun-sok's sparring partner, to make sure he's clear on the rules. He tells him he is absolutely, under no circumstances, allowed to kill Hyun-sok. He says he can fight, but he has to hold back. Gorbakam just gives a dumb look, casually scratching his head with these vacant eyes, looking totally unreliable. Kolkan then adds that he shouldn't hold back too much, either, but he should rough him up just enough so he can really feel it. He says it would be best if he avoids breaking any bones, admitting that sparring is a delicate balance. He promises Gorbakam extra meat after it's all over if he gives it his best shot. The second he hears the word meat, Gorbakam's eyes instantly ignite with focus. He tells the head chef to leave it all to him. Gorbakam and Hyun-sok face off against each other, leaving a good amount of space between them. Kolkan acts as the referee and raises his arm into the air. He shouts for them to get ready, and then gives the command to start. As Kolkan's arm drops, the fight begins. Hyun-sok immediately charges at Gorbakam, going full speed right out of the gate. Gorbakam just raises his arm, figuring a gentle tap would be enough to completely shatter his face. But then, the unexpected happens. Gorbakam's fist just slices through empty air. In that same instant, he catches a blur of motion. It's Hyun-sok's leg, whipping around with a sound like tearing wind. And just like that, with a single kick, Gorbakam is absolutely floored. 2 hours tick by, and the 3rd Legion marches into the forest behind headquarters. Even though no monsters have shown up, Hyun-sok is buzzing with an insane amount of energy. To be real, he never thought he'd actually win, but he just wrecked a beast man, with double his combat power in a single blow. And now it clicks for him. Power levels aren't the whole story. He actually feels like he has a fighting chance against a skull. At last, the news Hyun-sok was waiting for drops. A huge number of young Taras have been spotted up ahead. This whole area is their turf. Kolkan looks puzzled, admitting this whole situation is kinda weird. Since this region is usually a total Taras dead zone, this makes the normally go-getter Kolkan actually hesitate for a second. Hyun-sok strolls over to him, asking if there's a problem, or if Taras meat just tastes bad. Nah, Kolkan replies. Taras meat is seriously delicious. Especially the chewy bone marrow, that stuff's a straight-up delicacy. But, he explains, Taras are pack animals. If they aren't careful, they could get swarmed by the whole crew. And then, there's the mother Taras, the queen. Her maternal instincts are off the charts. He warns that if they mess with her babies, things will get ugly, fast. He even wonders if they should just call it a day. Hyun-sok just scratches his head and laughs, but Kolkan's expression turns dead serious. Since the meat's that good, he says calmly, we're catching them anyway. Besides, he figures, the queen almost never leaves her nest, so it's probably fine. He hoists his giant cleaver into the air and roars for everyone to charge, declaring that today's snack is Taras bone marrow. The kitchen soldiers let out a war cry and surge forward. Kolkan shouts for them to be careful and capture the creatures alive, because their bodily fluids are the good stuff. As the kitchen soldiers engage, Hyun-sok puts on his own show. He accidentally shoves a soldier aside, just in time to steal the final blow on a monster. He tells himself that last hit is his, he's got to get those levels up. Hyun-sok drops one creature after another as his level climbs nonstop. Rachel chimes in, calling him a hero, before adding that he's a professional kill stealer. Hyun-sok just cackles, totally feeling himself, thinking that at this rate, he'll blow past Kolkan in no time. But then, all of a sudden, the ground starts to tremble with a deafening rumble. Hyun-sok whips his head around, completely confused, wondering what in the world is happening. The kitchen soldiers are just as shook, but soon, the source of the earthquake quietly reveals itself. It's the Taras Queen. Her colossal frame is so massive it practically blots out the sky. Her eyes lock onto the pile of her children's corpses, and her entire body quakes with pure fury. She's going to make every single one of them pay with their lives. Without a second thought, Hyun-sok looks up, needing to see the power level of the beast, that has even Kolkan spooked. But the moment Hyun-sok aims his power gauge at her, the device starts blaring an alarm, displaying a single word, immeasurable. Hyun-sok snaps his head back to ask Kolkan for a plan, only to see his commander already sprinting away. Kolkan just yells over his shoulder, maybe we'll meet again if fate allows. Try to stay alive. Hyun-sok is stunned. You irresponsible punk, he yells. In that tense heartbeat, the Taras Queen's legs lash out toward the soldiers, like cannonballs. A whole squad of goblins who can't react in time are instantly turned into red mist. But she's not done. the queen unleashes a roar that echoes across the heavens, powerful enough to nearly shatter Hyunsok's eardrums. He's wondering why the hell it's making such a bizarre noise when Rachel's voice suddenly screams in his ear, "Hero, look behind you." On alert, Hyunsok spins around and sees a sight that makes his blood run cold. A literal tidal wave of countless young Taras is surging right for him. He's told to run and has no choice but to book it with the main force. Anyone who's too slow gets instantly erased by the queen. Agonized screams fill the air, but Hyunsok can't afford to worry about them. He knows that if he stops for even a second, he's a dead man, and he does not want to die. After sprinting for a solid 10 minutes, Hyunsok spots a cave and dives inside, asking if they'll be safe hiding in there. Rachel nods, confirming it's secure, claiming she scanned it and found no monsters inside. Even though Hyunsok doesn't fully trust her, he figures that in here has to be a whole lot safer than out in the open. After a moment's thought, he pushes forward. The cave is incredibly deep and spacious, looking like it was carved out by nature itself. That's when Rachel asks, if it's this big, doesn't that mean the Taurus queen can fit in here, too? Her question freezes him solid. He frantically scans the area and spots a puddle of green slime on the rocks. He wonders if a Taurus could have left it behind. But he remembers Kulkin saying there weren't supposed to be any Taurus around here, so they press on deeper into the darkness, only to discover a sight even more terrifying. The back of the cave is absolutely swarming with them. Hyunsok's eyes widen at the grotesque sight before him. No way. Are these all Taurus eggs? Is this the queen's nest? We gotta bounce. Like, right now, he mutters. But as he's frozen in shock, a razor-sharp Taurus spike slices through the air toward him. Hyunsok throws himself aside, the attack whizzing past his ear. Wait, why is there an adult in here too? With zero time to think, he picks a random direction and just bolts. A moment later, his face meets the floor, tripped by something unseen. In a total panic, Hyunsok's hand closes around a slimy egg, his only option for a weapon. He hurls it at the approaching Taurus with all his strength, and, to no one's surprise, the monster snatches it right out of the air. But then, it cradles the egg with impossible gentleness, terrified of cracking it. Hyunsok just stares, watching the Taurus, which has completely halted its assault. What the hell is going on? Are you trying to protect that thing? A few seconds of static from Rachel crackle in his ear before she chimes in. I think it actually likes the thing you just yeeted, she says. And look, it's covered in all that slime. Hyunsok's gaze drops to the sea of eggs around his feet, and suddenly, a crazy idea sparks in his brain. Could all of these be Taurus eggs? A wicked grin spreads across his face as he scoops up another one. The action immediately puts the Taurus on high alert. He fakes a throw, then deliberately lobs the egg far away from the beast. But the surprisingly parental Taurus still zips over and catches it. That speed is terrifying, Hyunsok notes. Rachel asks, okay, so what's the play now? Hyunsok just smirks. Isn't it obvious? I've got over 100 of these. Fast forward more than 10 minutes later, and the adult Taurus is completely gassed, heaving for breath. For all its effort, it couldn't save most of the eggs. Hyunsok extends a hand to Rachel. Give me the next one, he commands. Her response hits him like a freight train. That was the last one. The color instantly drains from Hyunsok's face. Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. The enraged Taurus, no longer playing games, explodes forward with terrifying velocity. Buff me now, Hyunsok screams. Rachel instantly complies. A brilliant blue aura erupts around Hyunsok's arm. He steals his nerves. Okay, it's exhausted from playing fetch. I can actually win this. He winds up his fist and unleashes one hell of a punch. The moment his knuckles make contact, the Taurus's armored shell shatters into pieces, revealing the bone underneath. Hyunsok stares at his own fist, completely stunned. I won, he whispers in disbelief. Hero, are you okay? Rachel asks. But just as the buff vanishes, Hyunsok's body feels like it's about to disintegrate from the recoil. Dude, that hurts so bad, he groans. Hang on, Rachel says. I can cast a healing spell. A dazzling light flows from her hands, and the mangled wounds across his body slowly begin to seal. As soon as he's healed up, he immediately starts dumping all the stat points he just got from leveling up. But the very next second, a familiar voice echoes from deeper in the cavern. Hyunsok's head snaps up in shock. It's Kulkan. Well, would you look at that? You're still breathing too, Kulkan remarks. Hyunsok is speechless, thinking about how the chef literally ran away. How did you even get in here? He finally asks. Kulkan just laughs it off. Found it while I was making a tactical retreat. I guess we're both just super lucky, huh? At that moment, however, Hyunsok cuts him off. Bro, this is the Taurus nest. And those things all over the floor are their eggs. We're standing in their hatchery. Kulkan stares at the eggs, his eyes burning with a weird intensity. He doesn't reply, just mutters. These soft-shelled eggs are a top-tier ingredient. Most people go their whole lives without tasting one. We need to run, like, yesterday, Hyunsuk insists, a curse slipping out. Kulkan, meanwhile, just picks up an egg and pops it into his mouth. The Tara's queen that was chasing me has probably found her way in by now, he says matter-of-factly. To take her down, you'd need the firepower of an entire commanding regiment. So, you might as well join me for this last supper. While the two are bickering, the sound of marching feet suddenly echoes from outside. It's the kitchen soldiers. Is this seriously my last meal? Hyunsuk freaks out. I refuse to accept this. I don't even have an isekai wife yet. My life can't just end like this, he yells. Meanwhile, we cut to Commander Hermes' office. She's summoned Loudron, telling him there's no need for all the formal bowing and scraping. So, she asks, how's that little task I assigned you? Loudron reports, as you ordered, the next saint has been successfully captured. Hermes pats Loudron on the head, a proud smile on her face. I knew you could pull it off, she says, impressed. In just 3 weeks, you managed to bag the Holy Empire's chosen one. Well done. But right then, the door to her office is flung open without permission. A messenger scrambles in, reporting an emergency. Commander, the kitchen staff ran into some trouble while gathering ingredients. Hermes just purses her lips. Doesn't that happen every other day? What's so shocking this time? The messenger explains, the casualty count, this time is significant. They encountered the Tara's queen. He reports that most of the kitchen team, including head chef Kulkan, are now either dead or missing in action. Hermes thoughtfully strokes her chin and asks about Hyunsuk. The messenger reports, he's missing too. Model. As the words hit her, Lauren goes completely still, her voice a shocked whisper as she repeats, wait, Hyunsuk is gone too? Deep inside the cave, however, Kulkan and the kitchen crew are lost to the world, hypnotized by the simple act of devouring eggs. Hyunsuk lets out a frustrated sigh before swinging a heavy book and cracking it against Kulkan's head. The raw, sharp pain instantly snaps the chef back to reality. He whips around, demanding to know what Hyunsuk is playing at. Hyunsuk quickly cooks up a story, claiming it looked like the chef was caught in some kind of bizarre curse. He insists it was the only way to break the spell. But the truth is, he just couldn't stand to see Kulkan so utterly broken. The weapon of choice in his hand is the Beast Encyclopedia, a guide Hyunsuk snagged from the shop for a cool 50 hero points. This tome holds the secrets to nearly every demon beast out there, including the nightmarish Taras. It profiles them as spider-like demon beasts, social hunters with ridiculously overdeveloped leg muscles. The guide highlights that to take down a Taras, you have to aim for their softer spots, the torso and the head. The book also drops a critical piece of intel. Taras bodily fluids are extremely flammable, and their eggs are basically little bombs packed with combustible liquid. Even worse, the caves themselves, woven from Taras saliva, have almost no resistance to fire, making fire magic a massive gamble. After absorbing these crucial weaknesses, Hyunsuk snaps the book shut and turns to Kulkan, asking if he's got any fire magic up his sleeve. Kulkan glances over, admitting he knows the absolute basics, like conjuring a simple fireball. But then he just sighs, telling Hyunsuk to forget it. He insists his low-level flames could never pierce a Taras' tough shell. Hyunsuk can only roll his eyes, because melting their shells was never part of the plan. He calls out to the entire group, his voice sharp and clear. Listen up, I've figured out how we get out of here. The others just scoff at him, dismissing him as the goblin chef's little sidekick. They sneer that it's pointless to even try, that they should just stay put and keep eating eggs. Faced with their crushing despair, Hyunsuk refuses to back down, pushing them to find their courage. He makes them a promise. If they make it out alive, it won't just be Taras eggs on the menu. He'll serve up unlimited, premium grilled meat feasts. The mere image of sizzling, delicious grilled meat is finally enough to spark a flicker of hope in their eyes. Kulkan, practically drooling, immediately perks up. A plan? What's the plan, Hyunsuk? Let's do it now. Seconds later, Hyunsuk lays it all out. All we have to do, he announces, is run. Straight for the exit. No matter what you see or what you hear, he commands. You do not stop running. Now, move out. The order barely leaves his lips before Hyunsuk is already sprinting, taking the lead as the others scramble to follow him. But they don't get far before a huge pack of adult Taras swarms into their path. Hyunsuk shouts to Kulkan, get ready. Clutching 2 eggs, he hurls them with all his might against the nearby wall, just as Kulkan unleashes his fire magic. The second the liquid from the eggs hits the open flame, a catastrophic explosion erupts, the shockwave threatening to bring the whole cave down. To save their remaining clutch, the adult Taras have to make a choice. They abandon the chase to deal with the bigger threat. Their priority becomes putting out the raging fire. They're distracted. Run, now. Hyunsuk screams. Everyone pushes forward, but the twisting tunnels make it impossible to spot the way out. We've only got 1 egg left, Hyunsuk yells in desperation. We have to find that exit before we're out of options. Just then, Rachel sees a faint glimmer ahead. Light. Over there. I think that's it. Weaving through the relentless attacks of the adult Taras, Hyun-suk bolts toward the light as it grows brighter and brighter. We're almost there, he pants. But right as they're about to taste freedom, Hyun-suk freezes, his blood running cold. Because filling the entire exit, a monstrous silhouette rises to block their path. It's the Taras queen. We're screwed, he breathes. The queen is back. And while her face is a mask of pure, murderous rage, she doesn't immediately lunge for them. A light bulb goes off in Hyun-suk's head. It has to be the egg in his hand. The book said Taras have an incredibly powerful maternal instinct. Not wasting a second, he rips a long strip of cloth from his sleeve. Kulkan, he orders, light this. He holds both the flaming torch and the precious egg high, his voice booming. This egg goes, we all go. You hear me? This whole cave will come down, he declares, and every last one of your children will be buried with us. Now, get out of our way, unless you want to watch that happen. The Taras queen screeches in fury, every fiber of her being wanting to tear him to shreds. But the instinct to protect her young paralyzes her. She holds her ground, unleashing a piercing shriek that shakes the very mountains. Left with no other move, Hyun-suk touches the flame to the Taras egg and hurls it deep into the cave. The instant it smashes against the far wall, the world explodes. The entire cave system shudders violently. Is this it? Hyun-suk thinks. Is it all coming down? As massive boulders begin to rain down from the ceiling, he knows the answer. The cave is collapsing. Everyone, get outside now, he screams. Hyun-suk sprints for the exit, but just after he bursts into the open air, he skids to a halt. Because the unmistakable chime of him leveling up rings in his ears. Rachel stares at him, completely bewildered, trying to drag him further away from the carnage. But she can't move him an inch as the entire cavern crumbles around them. A constant flood of level-up notifications keeps spamming his screen, one after the other. Hyun-suk's mind just blanks, hit by the horrifying realization that every single Tara being crushed to death is funneling its EXP directly to him. He's like, wait, is this happening because I'm the one who brought this whole place down? No time to dwell on it. He bolts for the exit. Getting past the Queen's blockade is a suicide mission, but he knows it's do or die. Just when all hope seems lost, Kulkan pulls out a priceless Terrace egg from his private stash, a look of pure agony on his face. He declares he'll use it to create a diversion for them. But the words are barely out of his mouth when the Queen lunges with a ferocious attack. Hyun-suk pulls off a slick slide right under the beast and makes a break for it. But just as he's about to taste freedom, she fires off a strand of web that snares his arm. This is it. I'm dead, he thinks. But in that same instant, a deep crimson blur materializes right in his path. It's Laudren, who casually asks, "You good?" Hyun-suk is absolutely floored, stammering that he has no clue why Laudren is even there. A cocky grin spreads across Laudren's face. "Knew you weren't dead yet," he says, before announcing, "I'll take it from here." As he speaks, an insane aura explodes from his body and instantly obliterates the Taras Queen. The sight leaves Hyun-suk completely speechless, his mind just screaming that Laudren's power is on another freaking level. The final body count for the hunt was grim. 99 chefs perished, including the head chef, Kulkan. Once the dust settles, Hyun-suk drags himself back to Popo's room. Rachel lets out a massive sigh of relief, admitting she's grateful for that stubborn commander and that they'd be totally dead without him. However, Hyun-suk immediately bursts her bubble, telling her to soak it in while it lasts, because they are officially screwed. His duel with Iskalkan is right around the corner. Rachel isn't having it, pointing out that he's already powered up like crazy. She reminds him that he jumped a whopping 75 levels from the cave-in alone. Now that Hyun-suk's finally hit level 200, he's packing 3,500 battle power, but his opponent is still sitting at a terrifying 6,000. Still, Hyun-suk has been doing some thinking. He knows that winning a fight is about way more than just raw stats. He thinks back to his sparring match with Gorbakam as the perfect proof. Rachel is on the exact same page, agreeing that a battle isn't just about pure muscle, it's also about magic. She tells him point blank that if he wants to beat a monster on that level, he absolutely has to learn how to wield magic. Hyun-suk scoffs that it's easy for her to say, since he has zero idea how to even start. Rachel's tone shifts as she suggests that it sure looked like he was using some kind of magic back in the terrace hatchery. Her words leave Hyun-suk totally confused. Did I actually use magic back then? He wonders. While he's racking his brain, the door is suddenly shoved open. He jumps. Hyun-suk asks what a commander is doing in their dump of a room. Laudren doesn't waste time with pleasantries. He's taking Hyun-suk to see Commander Hermes. Laudren leads the way, and they soon arrive at her office. Hermes looks up, asking Laudren what he wants, pointing out that he never just drops by for a chat. Skipping the small talk, Laudren cuts straight to the chase and asks the commander to let him personally train Hyun-suk. He explains that, while Iskalkan is technically a platoon leader, he's seen firsthand that the orc is easily strong enough to be a deputy battalion commander. Therefore, Laudren argues the upcoming duel is a complete mismatch, and he's positive he can unlock Hyunsuk's true potential. With the right training, Hyunsuk is reeling, wondering what Laudren's angle is and desperately praying. Hermes says, no. Unexpectedly, Hermes agrees without even a second's thought and tells Laudren to get lost if that's all he came for. She's busy. With no chance to protest, Hyunsuk is forced to follow Laudren out the door, muttering a thank you to the commander on his way out. The second they're gone, a sly grin spreads across Hermes' face. She's noticed that in just a handful of days, Hyunsuk's power has literally doubled. It's fascinating how fast a human can grow, but she admits it's also a little concerning. The thought hits her. If Laudren trains him, Iskalkin might actually lose. That's a possibility she simply cannot allow. A perfect scheme begins to form in her mind. Meanwhile, Laudren and Hyunsuk arrive at the training grounds. Hyunsuk's jaw drops when he realizes it's a private training ground. Hermes must have some serious faith in Laudren to give him a place like this. Laudren stops and sizes Hyunsuk up, immediately sensing it. The kid is overflowing with massive magical power, but has no clue how to access it. Being stared at with such intensity is starting to freak Hyunsuk out. He has no idea what the commander is plotting. Laudren figures he has to start with the basics, but then remembers the duel is in just 4 days. They are seriously running out of time. He suddenly spins around, his hand clenched into a tight fist. There's only one way to do this. He has to push Hyunsuk to the absolute brink to unleash his potential. He mutters that pain is the best teacher. Before Hyunsuk can even react, he gets rocked by Laudren's heavy punch. His head is spinning. Has this guy gone insane? He thinks, wondering why the man who offered to train him is suddenly trying to murder him. Laudren cracks his knuckles and lunges forward again, roaring at Hyunsuk to block with everything he's got, or he's dead. Hyunsuk throws his arms up to defend, but the raw power of the blow still catapults him back several meters. Laudren calculates that while Hyunsuk's physical stats are low, his reflexes, perception, and mental fortitude are off the charts. He gets it now. That kick he almost failed to block wasn't a fluke. This kid has some serious real-world combat instincts. Laudren surges forward again, roaring that without mana, he stands zero chance against a monster like Iskolkin. He snarls at Hyunsuk that it's better to die right here, right now, than to get clowned in front of the entire army. Another bone-rattling strike sends Hyunsuk spiraling. The reality hits him. The commander isn't playing around. One more shot like that, and it's game over. As Laudren winds up for another devastating punch, convinced the boy is on the verge of unlocking his mana, Hyunsuk digs deep. He can't die yet, because he hasn't even landed a wife in this new world. He grits his teeth, balls his fist, and barrels straight at Laudren. In a flash, a brilliant blue aura erupts around his hand. Their fists collide in a thunderous boom, unleashing a massive shockwave of pure energy. Spent and exhausted, Hyunsuk crumples to the ground. Laudren strolls over, pointing out the obvious. He just used mana. Even on the verge of passing out, Hyunsuk flashes a thumbs up and butters up the commander, saying it's all thanks to his amazing teaching. Laudren grabs his hand, telling him to keep that energy if he wants any hope of winning, and starts to channel healing magic into Hyunsuk's wounds. But the moment the magic enters his body, Hyunsuk's eyes fly open in excruciating pain. He thrashes, spitting up blood, his lungs feeling like they're on fire. A wave of sheer terror washes over Laudren's face as he realizes his catastrophic mistake. He forgot Hyunsuk is human. He frantically explains that dark magic is basically a death sentence for humans, a fatal poison, apologizing over and over. Scooping Hyunsuk up, he knows there's only one person who can possibly save him now: the Saint. He lays out how the powers of this world work, like a cosmic game of rock, paper, scissors. Dark magic obliterates standard magic. Standard magic nullifies holy power, and holy power is the ultimate counter to dark magic. Magic is the domain of humans, while dark magic is wielded by demons. And holy power? That belongs to the devout, most famously within the Holy Gatlin Empire, a place where the gods themselves are said to speak. He mentions that within this empire, one truly exceptional individual is chosen to become the saint. Deep within the demon army's 3rd Legion headquarters, a human woman is held captive in a dark chamber. She has silver hair cascading down to her waist, skin as pale as untouched snow, and shimmering silver eyes to match. Her features are so breathtakingly beautiful it's hard to look away, but her eyes are completely vacant, like a dead fish, utterly stripped of all life. Her name is Abelson Mariette, the next in line to be the saint of the Gatlin Holy Empire. Ever since Laudren kidnapped her a short while ago, she's been locked away in this prison. It's been days since she last prayed to her god. Even though she can hear the divine voice, a prerequisite for her title, she hasn't even tried to reach out. She knows any attempt from within this demonic fortress would be completely useless. As Mariette is lost in her desolate thoughts, the chamber door flies open. Standing there is the Red Nightmare himself, Loudrin. He's breathing heavily, a clear sign he sprinted all the way here. Mariette is thrown by his panicked expression. The stone-cold Loudrin she knows is never rattled by anything. Loudrin's voice cracks with urgency as he begs her to save the human he's carrying. Hyunsuk has already blacked out, his head feeling like it's about to split in two. He vaguely remembers the last moments Loudrin's fist connecting with him, then hitting the dirt. A wave of regret washes over him. He can't believe he's actually dying, while holding another dude's hand. He figures that at the very least, he should be holding a woman's hand as he checks out, even if it was someone like Rachel. Just as he's thinking this, a warm, gentle energy floods his senses. He slowly cracks his eyes open. Before him floats a figure he can only describe as a goddess. He takes in her silver hair and matching eyes, her face a perfect, emotionless mask. Hyunsuk is now 100% sure he's dead and has arrived at the reincarnation spot. He immediately declares that he will never forgive this goddess. He demands that Rachel be sent straight to hell, calling her a demoness in a goddess's skin. Then he lays it out. If she's planning to isekai him as a hero again, she's gotta marry him first. The saint just listens to his insane rambling, and a flicker of sadness crosses her face. She murmurs about how tragic it is, wondering if he died a virgin in both of his lives. But before Hyunsuk can get another word in, Loudrin suddenly rushes into the room. He shouts that Hyunsuk is finally awake and pulls him into a crushing bear hug, tears streaming down his face. The pressure is so immense, Hyunsuk is pretty sure he's about to die all over again. Loudrin quickly lets him go. After a few seconds of stunned silence, Hyunsuk holds his breath and glances around. The woman? She's still there. The horrifying realization dawns on him. She might not be a goddess, she might be a real person, and he just said all of that to her. Loudrin frantically asks the saint if the kid is fully healed. Mariette just shakes her head, model, and clarifies that nothing is certain yet, pointing out that the shadow of dark magic still clings to his body. She admits she has no idea what the final result will be, and Loudrin is floored, wondering how even her sacred power wasn't enough to fully purge the corruption. Mariette, ever the calm one, suggests it might just be a temporary thing, that the foul energy could just fade on its own, over time. So for now, they just have to wait and see. Loudrin pulls Hyunsuk into a crushing hug, apologizing and swearing he'll find some way to atone for this, through his training. Hyunsuk immediately tries to pump the brakes, telling the commander he doesn't have to go that hard for a mere subordinate. But before he can even get the words out, Loudrin just scoops him up and carries him out of the room, leaving the saint totally baffled. She's left thinking, why is that demon training a human anyway? Who is this kid? After they leave, Hyunsuk immediately ducks out of more training, using the excuse that he's gotta go feed Popo. In his head, he's thanking the little creature for being the perfect get-out-of-jail-free card, conveniently forgetting that Popo already chowed down on a soldier who tried to feed him earlier, so he definitely shouldn't be hungry. While Hyunsuk is vibing, relieved to have dodged a beatdown from Loudrin, he thinks about the dark magic still lingering inside him, and basically shrugs it off, figuring it's probably not some major issue that's gonna kill him. But then his eyes land on Rachel, and he sees her crumpled on the ground, sobbing. Turns out, she heard every single word Hyunsuk said to Mariette, and she is absolutely shattered that her hero literally wished for her to go to hell. She's weeping, crying out that it's all her fault he nearly died, that she really is a goddess cursed with a demon's mask, who deserves to suffer for all eternity. Hyunsuk instantly realizes he was way too harsh and walks over to try and patch things up. He tells her to stop being mad, admitting he can't get by without her, calling her his personal buff dispenser. Rachel just tells him to shut his mouth and that she doesn't want to hear another word. The scene fast-forwards to the very next day. Hyunsuk shows up at Loudrin's private training ground like clockwork and proceeds to get beaten to within an inch of his life, which means Mariette has basically become his on-call, personal healer. After a session, Hyunsuk thanks her for putting him back together. Then, right before the duel, he awkwardly scratches his head and asks if she could, maybe pray that he doesn't die tomorrow. As an afterthought, he adds that if it's not too much trouble, he'd love for her to come and watch. In what feels like a heartbeat, the day of the duel is upon them. Thanks to the hellish training, every single muscle in Hyunsuk's body is screaming, but his mind is totally serene. Bottom line, he's leveled up. Still, nobody in the crowd is betting on him. I mean, let's be real. Humans have a massive physical disadvantage against demons. Hermes turns to Loudrin and asks who he's got his money on. Loudrin doesn't even blink. He says Hyunsuk will win, noting that the kid possesses an insane, once-in-a-generation talent and has been through the grinder in training. But Hermes scoffs, telling him she's not sold on the boy, and asks if he's down to make things interesting with a little wager. She lays out the terms. If Loudrin's boy wins, she'll let him keep training him. But if he loses, she wants Loudrin to kill Hyunsuk with his own two hands. She tells him that since he claims to have so much faith in the kid, he needs to put his money where his mouth is. Trapped, Laudren can only agree, and the weight of that promise instantly makes his blood run cold. He does not want Hyunsuk to die. Hyunsuk just lowers his head, telling himself he's got this, that Laudren's training gave him the edge he needs. He's unlocked a brand new skill, the Laudren combat technique. This isn't just fighting, it's a dynamic martial art, a deadly symphony composed of 10 different boxing styles, all modified from the ancient code and fighting style passed down through Laudren's clan. Its only purpose is to generate overwhelming power and utterly dominate any opponent. Even though his mastery is still kinda low, his raw physical strength has skyrocketed. From the training, he tells himself he has to win, because a certain silver-haired saint, Tess, is watching from the stands. But just as Hyunsuk is lost in his thoughts, his opponent, the beastman Eskolkin, makes his grand entrance. The demonic energy rolling off him has exploded, climbing to terrifying new levels in no time at all, and it's practically a carbon copy of Hermes' own aura. The second Laudren sees it, he knows something is deeply wrong, and he shoots to his feet in alarm. Hermes just gives him a wicked smile and says, "No take-backsies." A moment later, the duel officially kicks off. Tendrils of black, misty energy pour endlessly from Eskolkin's body. He lets out a deafening roar, his voice supercharged with magic that shakes the very ground. In that instant, his combat power clocks in at a horrifying 10,573. Hyunsuk is completely staggered by that insane power jump. In just a couple of days, having no clue that this is all Hermes' twisted handiwork, he clenches his fist, muttering that he won't back down, and explodes towards Eskolkin. But just as he closes the distance, Eskolkin swings his colossal iron club, slamming it down with enough force to split the earth beneath it. Hyunsuk contorts his body, narrowly dodging the cataclysmic blow, and immediately pivots to launch a counter from a different angle. His fist connects hard with the side of the beastman's face, but he knows one hit won't be enough to end this, so he follows up instantly with his other hand. What he never saw coming was that, even after taking 2 direct, powerful hits, Eskolkin doesn't even budge an inch. The beastman just swings his iron club in a vicious counter-arc, coming terrifyingly close to taking off Hyunsuk's left arm. After dodging by a hair's breadth, Hyunsuk looks up at the monster before him and realizes he's in deep trouble. Aside from a thin trickle of blood, the guy looks completely unfazed. But before Hyunsuk has a second to hesitate, Eskolkin blasts forward with terrifying speed. But to Hyunsuk, fresh from Laudren's brutal training, the beast's movements are laughably predictable. He can read his opponent's every move like an open book. He tells himself to stay cool, remembering the core principle. True combat is a symphony of raw technique and pure mana, a fusion that multiplies its killing power. He recalls Laudren's words, that his old techniques were useless because he lacked the intent to kill, rendering his attacks hollow. A look of grim understanding dawns on Hyunsuk's face. I get it now. I have to go for the kill. Clenching his fist, a brilliant blue aura explodes around his hand. He vows that no matter who stands in his way, he will crush them. This is Hyunsuk's Laudren-style combat technique, supercharged with mana, and it smashes directly into Eskolkin's gut. The resulting shockwave is so immense it rips right through him, making the very ground beneath them shudder. When the dust finally settles, Eskolkin is revealed, a massive, gaping hole, torn straight through where his heart should be. The announcer screams that the victor of the day is the underdog human, Hyunsuk. The moment he hears it, Hyunsuk's legs give out and he crumples to the floor. That one attack torched nearly all of his mana reserves. He whispers to himself, I did it. A direct shot to the heart. But just as the crowd roars, thinking the fight is over, a grotesque, spiderweb-like substance begins oozing from Eskolkin's wound. It rapidly weaves itself together, sealing the massive cavity in his chest. Hyunsuk knows this bizarre, overpowered ability is way beyond what a creature like Eskolkin should be capable of. He's not dead, even with his heart obliterated. It clicks in his mind. This has to be Hermes' doing. She must have branded Eskolkin with some kind of dark magic, an immortality curse. Up in the stands, Laudren starts to sweat, worried for his student, while Hermes just smirks, looking completely smug. She muses that Hyunsuk mastered the technique in such a short time. His talent is off the charts, but she smirks, thinking she saw this coming a mile away. In just a few heartbeats, Eskolkin is already back on his feet, good as new. Rachel is totally bewildered. What is going on? Is that a curse? If so, it can't last forever. Eskolkin lunges forward again, drool dripping from his maw. Hyunsuk tracks his movements, realizing they haven't changed at all. These attacks are way too basic to land, he thinks. But just as he moves to sidestep, his legs suddenly lock up, completely failing him. In that split second of vulnerability, with no time to react, Hyunsuk is launched like a cannonball by Eskolkin, slamming hard into the arena wall. Hyun-sok is forced to desperately grab the beastman's arm, twisting it with every ounce of his remaining strength. But even as the sickening crack of bone echoes through the arena, Iskulkin doesn't even flinch, acting like he feels nothing as he violently flings Hyun-sok away. The impact is so brutal that Hyun-sok's vision goes black for a moment. He can feel it, the sharp, agonizing pain of multiple fractures, spreading all over his body. From the audience, Mariette shouts, "Get up, you can do this." Hyun-sok is shocked. She almost never talks to him, but he thinks, she's right, it's not over. Fueled by her words, Hyun-sok staggers back to his feet, his body trembling. There is absolutely no way he's going to embarrass himself in front of the girl he personally invited. He thinks to himself, I haven't even taken her on a date yet. As if triggered by his resolve, a colossal amount of mana erupts from his body. If my bones are busted, I'll just wrap them in mana like a suit of armor. With this new surge of power, Hyun-sok explodes into motion, launching himself high into the sky. He channels every last drop of his mana into his hands and roars, "Just die already." Hyun-sok's attack crashes down on Iskulkin's head, practically caving his skull in. And yet, somehow, Iskulkin is still standing. That same creepy black mist begins to pour from his body again. Hyun-sok stares at the regenerating monster with an ice-cold calm. His mind is laser-focused on two things, victory and that date. Raising his fist, Hyun-sok says, "This is my gig." He calls out to his opponent, "Come on, you muscle-bound pig." As he speaks, he drives another punch straight into Iskulkin's face. Hermes turns to Laudren, stunned. "Did you teach him that kind of mana control?" When Laudren shakes his head no, a flash of genuine fear crosses her face. "We need to be careful," she says. "He's a monster." Coming from her, a being whose power is second only to a legion commander, that word carries serious weight. For Hermes, besides the Demon King himself, absolutely no one can challenge her authority. The duel is abruptly declared finished. When Hyun-sok comes to, he finds himself back in Popo's room. He has no idea how the fight ended. He never saw the final outcome. The last thing he remembers is just relentlessly beating the crap out of Iskulkin. Rachel fills him in, explaining that he won, and that the Saintess healed his injuries afterward. Hearing this, Hyun-sok immediately pulls up his hero system panel. He discovers that from that single battle, he shot up a whopping 12 levels, and all his stats have seen a massive boost. He also notices he snagged a completely new skill, called Mana Control. But here's the crazy part. Even the widely traveled goddess Rachel has never even heard of such a skill. Hyun-sok can't resist a jab, telling her, "Of course you haven't seen it. That's normal." Rachel fires back, asking what he's trying to imply. She insists it's because the skill is incredibly rare, not because she's clueless. And so, the two start bickering again. A flash of white catches Hyun-sok's eye, a small, folded note resting right beside him. Meanwhile, clear across the compound, the Saintess who patched him up retreats to her private quarters, her gaze drifting out the window. Her mind races, replaying his impossible progress. This guy is just unreal. Mastering mana control and learning legitimate combat techniques in just 3 days? That's a grind that takes even the most talented knights a full month. The chilling realization hits her. His potential is absolutely off the charts. Mariette wrings her hands, wondering if the divine answer to her prayers from days ago was this boy's jaw-dropping talent, or a literal gift from the heavens. But in the end, it doesn't even matter, he clutched the win, and that's all the proof she needs. A thought sparks in her mind. This guy might just be the one she's been searching for all this time. With newfound resolve, Mariette arrives at his door and gives it a firm knock. When a guard questions the Saintess's presence, she purses her lips and asks for a small favor, a simple walk outside the suffocating walls. Meanwhile, back in Popo's room, Hyun-suk unfolds the note, his eyes widening when he realizes it's from the Saintess herself. The message is an invitation, a private stroll with her in the back garden. A tremor of pure hype shoots through him, and he practically teleports to the rendezvous spot. His mind races, buzzing with possibilities. Should he shoot his shot and ask for her number right away, or play it cool and suggest they become pen pals? But Rachel, appearing out of the shadows, is so not here for this late-night escapade. "Don't be an idiot," she scoffs, convinced the Saintess is just playing him. She urges him to bail, but before she can finish her sentence, Hyun-suk's hand darts out, yanking her back with a sudden urgency. He's detected movement. Peering into the darkness, he spots Mariette, but his heart sinks when he sees her two massive Minotaur bodyguards looming behind her. So much for a private date. A wave of disappointment washes over him, but Mariette quickly explains that they're her mandatory escorts. She reveals a chilling truth. She can't go anywhere alone because she's essentially a prisoner of the demon army. She suggests they start their walk anyway, but with two hulking Minotaurs staring them down, Hyun-suk is too rattled to even form a sentence. Mariette turns to him, her voice low. "You're a hero, aren't you?" Hyun-suk freezes, completely stunned. before giving a slight nod and asking how she figured it out. She explains that in this world, only demons and heroes rock black hair, and after witnessing his god-tier performance in the duel yesterday, the answer was obvious. She was absolutely certain he had to be a hero. Flustered by the high praise, Hyun-suk just lets out a super awkward laugh. He then works up the courage to ask a question of his own. So, as a person, what do you, think of me? A look of utter bewilderment flashes across Mariette's face. It's a rare crack in her stoic facade. She has no idea what this guy is even talking about, and the vibe instantly becomes painfully cringy. Just then, a voice cuts through the thick, awkward silence. It's Laudren. There you are, he calls out, informing Hyun-suk that the Legion commander demands his presence. The news hits him like a truck. The date he'd been so hyped for is officially dead in the water, ending before it even began. Laudren escorts him straight to Hermes' office, where the commander is casually perched cross-legged on her desk, staring him down. Nicely done, she says, her voice dripping with condescension. She makes it clear she watched his duel and is low-key impressed with his recent track record. With a flick of her finger, Hermes asks if he recalls the little proposition she offered him. Hyun-suk immediately nods, confirming he remembers every word. She was supposed to protect him, and in return, he would fight anyone she pointed him at. That's the one, Hermes confirms. And you also said, she continues, that you wanted to become a demon officer and work for us. She gives a satisfied nod. But here's the thing, she purrs. That was just a placeholder. Honestly, I didn't expect you to survive this long. My opinion has evolved. She gestures toward Laudren, adding that he seems to think the boy has the potential to be an exceptional demon officer. So, she declares, instead of more duels, we're going to try something a little different this time. Hermes slides off the desk and glides towards him, explaining that their legion has its own independent cooking unit. Unfortunately, she sighs dramatically, that unit took some serious losses recently. Now the executives can't even get a decent meal. As of today, she announces, you are the new commander of this unit, and I'm giving you full authority to recruit new cooking soldiers however you see fit. Can you handle it? She asks, the question leaving no room for refusal. Hyun-suk knows he's cornered. Consider it done, he replies. Rachel can't help but chime in with a sarcastic jab. Well, congrats on the big promotion, company commander. So, how does it feel? She taunts. A human hero, now an officer leading demon troops. You must be thrilled. But Hyun-suk just smirks back. The feeling is pretty epic, actually. The two trade insults all the way to the Legion's kitchen, but the second, Hyun-suk shoves the door open, a disgusting, greedy chewing sound echoes from inside. He looks down to see a cooking soldier on the floor, shamelessly stuffing his face with scraps. The soldier looks up and recognizes him. Hey, it's that barbecue slave, he grunts. That's the trigger. Hyun-suk's cool facade shatters, and with a twitch of his numb foot, he snaps. You got that wrong, he snarls, his voice dropping to a dangerous low. As of today, I'm the head chef supervisor, and with that, he drives his boot straight into the soldier's face. After that brutal display of authority, Hyun-suk rounds up every last soldier in the kitchen for inspection. He quickly sizes them up. Most are scrubs with a battle power around 2,000, and the strongest barely hits 3,500. A massive red flag pops up in Hyun-suk's mind as he scans the pathetic turnout. Why are there so few of them? A unit like this should have 300 to 500 soldiers, but he's looking at less than 30. Still, he knows he can't defy Hermes' orders. That's a one-way ticket to a dirt nap. So, he puts on his best poker face and addresses the sorry-looking crew. Does anyone here know who I am? One of the soldiers raises a shaky hand. You're the tasty human. The words barely leave his mouth before Hyun-suk launches him with a savage kick that sends him slamming into the wall. That's right. I am the tasty human, Hyun-suk confirms with a dark glint in his eye, pulling out the official appointment letter from Hermes as his mic drop moment. And he announces that the commander has officially put him in charge as the head supervisor of the entire kitchen unit, which means, from this moment on, they're to treat him like absolute royalty. He then asks if anyone can fill him in on why the place looks so deserted. One soldier nervously raises a hand, explaining that everyone else went out hunting and got wiped out by magical beasts. Hearing this, Hyun-suk is completely unfazed, because he knows their strongest chef, Kulkan, was already taken out by the Terrace Queen. So it's no shocker that these leftover scrubs couldn't handle a few wild monsters. He then demands to know who the strongest one left is. Without a single moment of hesitation, every finger points directly at Gurumu, the very same guy Hyun-suk just finished beating down, because his combat power is on another level. Hyun-suk smirks and appoints him deputy kitchen supervisor, then dismisses the lot of them. He slumps into a corner by himself, calculating that the kitchen needs at least 200 people, and realizing there's only one way he's going to make that happen. The next day, as dawn breaks, Hyun-suk and Popo head out. He's cooked up a genius, if slightly psychotic, method for recruitment. The plan involves using Popo to absolutely terrify his targets. He'll give them a simple choice: sign up for the kitchen department or become Popo's next meal. To kick things off, Hyunsuk drills a soldier straight in the face, clocking his power level at a pathetic 1,931. This one's a pushover. He leans in and asks the guy, "You want to join the kitchen department, little mole?" The soldier glances around, bewildered, and points to himself in total confusion. But Hyunsuk just confirms it by landing another savage kick. The mole guy collapses, looking completely wronged, whining about why he's getting hit without even getting a chance to speak. Hyunsuk just sighs and tells him he's the first recruit of the day, explaining that this grants him a higher status than anyone who signs up later. He can abuse his new power or even find someone to pin his screw-ups on. The mole guy just stares blankly at the idea of blaming someone else, his brain clearly not equipped to process such a high-level strategy. Hyunsuk tells him to round up all of his friends, promising that for every 10 people who join, he'll give the mole guy his very own subordinate. The plan feels flawless. Hyunsuk can already see himself commanding a division's worth of troops. There's just one tiny detail he overlooked. That mole creature is actually a soldier from the independent battalion. And this news travels fast, straight to the battalion commander, the demon Doris. A soldier bursts in, informing Doris they have a serious problem, and the battalion is hemorrhaging soldiers. Doris elegantly picks up a handkerchief, asking if they deserted or just left in a group, because he can't imagine he treated them poorly, enough to make them run for the hills. The soldier clarifies that they didn't run, they were poached to become cooks. Doris lets out a sigh of relief, leaning back in his chair and saying he'll let it slide this time. Poaching soldiers for kitchen duty is pretty standard, after all. Though he does tell the messenger to warn them to be a bit more subtle next time. But the soldier cries out that they need to take this seriously, because Hyunsuk has already snatched 200 of their men. The number hits Doris like a freight train, and his calm, collected demeanor completely shatters. Meanwhile, Hyunsuk's recruitment drive is still going strong. He tallies up the numbers over 200 cooks and wonders if it's time to wrap things up. But the second he thinks it, a chilling feeling crawls up his spine. Something is very wrong. He glances to the side and sees something utterly terrifying. He's baffled. He told them to bring a comrade, so why in the world did one guy show up with a pig? He fires up his power gauge to check and instantly freezes in horror. They are so screwed. The power level is unreadable, soaring past 50,000. Hyunsuk tries to quietly pack up and make a run for it, but a voice cuts through the air, calling his name. It's Doris. All Hyunsuk can do is turn around and force a pained smile. "Commander, what a surprise to see you here," he chokes out. Doris reveals he's the commander of the 3rd Legion's independent battalion. He starts grilling him, asking if Hyunsuk has any idea what's on his mind. He gestures to the crowd of new recruits and demands to know why Hyunsuk decided to steal half of his entire battalion. Hyunsuk is floored. He never dreamed they all came from the same unit. He begs for a chance to explain, mentally kicking himself for how smoothly everything had been going. A few minutes later, Doris drags Hyunsuk into his office. When Hyunsuk insists he didn't do it on purpose, Doris asks if he's telling the truth. Hyunsuk nods furiously and immediately starts laying on the flattery. He claims he was only picking the most heroic-looking soldiers, and it just so happens they were all from Doris's incredible battalion. Doris absolutely beams, thinking to himself that since the big boss Hermes seems to like this guy, he probably shouldn't make a scene. So he puts on a smile and says that if that's Hyunsuk's selection criteria, then they have no choice but to comply. Hyunsuk is ecstatic, but he has a sinking feeling it's not going to be that simple. And sure enough, Doris lays down a condition. Hyunsuk has to take just one more soldier from the battalion, and then they'll call it even. Hyunsuk can smell a trap a mile away. Doris is obviously trying to offload some useless deadweight on him, but seeing the commander's murderous vibes start to leak out, he quickly blurts out that he'd be thrilled and practically bolts out of the office, telling Doris to just send the soldier over. A little while later, just after Hyunsuk gets back to his own office, the door swings open and a hulking giant of a man fills the doorway. His name is Azulu, a terrifying hybrid of an ogre and a half-orc. Staring at the power reading, Hyunsuk sees it's completely off the charts. He thinks to himself, this guy may look like a total meathead, but he's an absolute monster, a weapon that needs to be wielded carefully. The very next morning, Hyunsuk rounds up all the kitchen grunts and lays down the new law. He's Popo's official keeper and the new head chef in charge. He announces a total departmental shakeup, pulling out a freshly made roster and forcing them to line up according to their new positions. He starts sorting them by raw power level. The weaker ones are relegated to kitchen duty, while the heavy hitters are coming with him to hunt. A few minutes later, the division is clear. Two distinct lines form, the cooking squad sulking on the right, and the newly formed combat squad standing ready on the left. When Hyunsuk asks if anyone has a problem with the new arrangement, a tiny beastman shoots his arm up, demanding his right to hunt and get fresh meat too. Hyunsuk lets out a hollow laugh and waves the little guy over. The second he's in range, Hyunsuk unleashes a vicious kick, sending the skinny soldier flying across the room. "You have to pass my test first," he says coldly, "and you just failed. Spectacularly." Right on cue, a notification from the hero system flashes in his vision. His charisma and command abilities just leveled up, a reward for his decisive leadership in restructuring the unit. Hyunsuk's eyes widen a totally unexpected power-up. Cracking his knuckles, he raises a fist. "Any other objections?" he asks the silent crowd. Then he barks an order for the combat squad to move out for the hunt. He leads the charge deep into the northern forest, but the place is a ghost town, not a single beast in sight. Rachel speculates it's because Popo or Azalu are just too overpowered. Their insane power levels are basically a monster repellent. Hyunsuk knows she's right, but he can't just bench his two most valuable players. Rachel claps her hands, a devious glint in her eye, and suggests using some of the weaker soldiers as bait. A wicked grin spreads across Hyunsuk's face as he thinks, "This girl is a demon," before picking 5 unlucky souls for the task. With fake tears streaming down his face, Hyunsuk calls out lottery numbers he remembers from Earth and commands Azalu to start yeeting the chosen soldiers into the wilderness. As each number is called, he screams for Azalu to launch them like human missiles, figuring the pathetic bait will be too tempting for any real prey to ignore. He makes a big show of having his men light torches, pretending it's so the bait can see the smoke and find their way back. If they survive, Rachel voices her doubts that any of them will return alive, but Hyunsuk just gives her a chilling, confident smirk. He says at least one of the 6 will make it back, counting Azalu who threw them. The other soldiers stare, completely convinced their new boss has gone insane. They're about to desert, but they turn to find Popo blocking their only escape route. Hyunsuk is perfectly calm, knowing they have 2 choices: obey or become Popo's afternoon snack. The soldiers wisely choose the first option. After a tense wait, the plan works perfectly. The bait soldiers come sprinting back, leading several massive beasts right to them. Hyunsuk yells for them to hold back, intending to let the squad weaken the beasts so he can land the final, experience-rich blows. But before he can even finish the command, Azalu lets out a thunderous roar and charges in, swinging his weapon in a furious, unstoppable attack. Hyunsuk's jaw drops at the raw power. Azalu completely obliterates the massive beast with a single strike. Not to be outdone, Popo instantly one-shots all the others. Hyunsuk realizes this is a complete disaster. He missed all the final blow experience, and the meat has been pulverized into useless mush. He makes a firm decision. When they hunt tomorrow, those 2 walking nukes are absolutely staying behind. Shortly after returning to his room, Hyunsuk hypes himself into a state of fury, and then storms toward the kitchen. He kicks the door open with a crash. "Are you all slacking off again?" he roars. "Is the food ready or not?" The terrified deputy head chef scurries over, stammering that they're working on it, but admits that today's meat is presenting a bit of a challenge. Hyunsuk's expression turns to ice. "A true craftsman," he says in a low, threatening voice, "never blames his tools." The deputy chief quickly agrees and scrambles away. But Hyunsuk knows the truth. The skill level of these cooks is so abysmal that even a stray dog would turn its nose up at their food. However, Hyunsuk already has a master plan. The regular soldiers will have to choke down whatever garbage the kitchen staff produces. But the battalion commanders and officers of higher rank, they alone will be qualified to taste the food that he cooks himself. He figures this is a genius move that not only solves the production crisis, but will also score him major brownie points with the people in charge. After perfecting a roast, Hyunsuk immediately goes to find Mariette. He owes her big time for her help during his duel. He offers her the tender roast as a token of his gratitude. Mariette insists she only needs a little bit. She spears a single piece, and a rich, meaty aroma instantly fills the room, smelling far more incredible than she ever expected. The moment she puts it in her mouth, the taste completely blows her mind. It is without a doubt the most delicious thing she has ever eaten in the entire Demon Lord's Black Castle. Before long, Mariette has devoured the entire roast. As Hyunsuk picks up the empty plate to leave, Mariette's voice stops him. She asks Hyunsuk if he has anything he wants to do once he finally leaves the Demon Lord's castle. Without a second thought, Hyunsuk blurts out that he just wants to get married and have children. Hearing this, Mariette completely freezes. She admits she thought a hero would have loftier ambitions. Hyunsuk just says he understands and turns to go. But then he shyly hooks his finger and mumbles that it doesn't necessarily have to be the village chief's daughter he marries. Then, he asks Mariette the same question. After a long pause, she quietly says that there's nothing she wants to do. Meanwhile, miles away in the Gatlin Empire, a subordinate bursts into a war room, panicking. They've finally discovered the location of Saintess Mariette. She's being held captive inside the Black Castle. But the Empire is frozen with terror, daring not to send troops because they fear the monster guarding it, the voracious eater, Hermes. History books say the Black Castle has only fallen 3 times, and every single time, it was because Hermes wasn't around. After racking his brain, the Pope hatches a plan to summon their greatest heroes and deploy them as a Black Ops rescue mission. Cut to the next morning, when Hyunsuk rallies his troops bright and early for a hunt. But something's bugging him. Mariette's words about not wanting to do anything are echoing in his head, and he can't figure out what she meant. Pushing the thought aside, Hyunsuk kicks off the day's hunt. After plunging deep into the forest, he throws up a hand, halting the entire squad, and summons all 10 of his squad leaders to the front. The leaders trade nervous glances, trying to read his poker face, wondering what kind of fresh hell he's cooked up for them today. They're just relieved Azolo isn't there, figuring Hyunsuk probably won't pull that savage move of yeeting his own soldiers into the forest again. But today, Hyunsuk is shockingly generous, whipping out several massive hunks of seasoned roast from his backpack. He tells them to grab a piece and start eating, warning them that if they hesitate, they'll become Popo's next meal. With tears in their eyes, the squad leaders start scarfing down the meat, and these absolute units demolish the fist-sized chunks in less than a minute. They're shouting at the head chef, asking what this magic is and raving about how incredible it tastes. Legit tears are streaming down their faces as they sob about how joining the kitchen squad was the best decision of their lives. They declare the head chef a living legend and swear to grind harder than ever, all while begging for another piece. Hyunsuk just raises a single finger, wagging it gently. He tells them the gourmet experience is over, because now, the real game begins. He orders them to capture beasts alive, declaring that the squad that bags the most will earn the right to dine with him tonight. "What are you still standing there for?" he yells. "Run!" As the words leave his mouth, a brutal, meat-fueled deathmatch erupts. Driven by the memory of that god-tier roast, the squad leaders charge into the wilds like madmen. Hyunsuk watches, thinking to himself that every living creature is a slave to its desires. During the chaos of the hunt, Hyunsuk himself casually levels up to 224. The squad leaders finally ask who took the W, and Hyunsuk turns to announce the Wild Wolf Squad as the champions of the hunt. He tells them they've earned their feast. As for the losers, better luck next time. Meanwhile, back inside the Black Castle, demon soldiers lie in pools of their own blood, all slaughtered in mere moments by a single intruder. This shadowy figure reaches the chamber where Saintess Mariette is imprisoned and throws back his hood. He announces he's with the rescue team, sent by the Pope Oseld Geffen, a secret hero of the Holy Empire, and he's here to bust her out. But plot twist, after he explains his mission, Mariette shuts him down cold, demanding that he leave immediately. Geffen just scratches his head, smiling, saying that this is his mission, and he always finishes his missions. Mariette keeps refusing, warning him about the voracious eater Hermes. She threatens him, saying if he doesn't bounce, she'll use her holy power to alert Hermes. Before she can finish her sentence, Geffen drives a brutal punch straight into her gut. He tells her to sleep tight, promising that when she next opens her eyes, she'll be back in the Empire. As he holds her, a suffocating wave of dizziness washes over her. How can he wield holy power, she wonders, her last desperate thought being that she absolutely cannot go back to that place. Just as she's about to black out, a fist the size of a cinder block smashes into Geffen's face. Hyunsuk has arrived. "Get your filthy hands off her," he snarls. He threw nearly every ounce of his strength into that punch, but Geffen doesn't even flinch. Geffen sneers, sizing him up. "Well now, a guy reeking of dark magic. How interesting. You look a lot more human on the outside." He taunts Hyunsuk, saying his moves are slick, but his magic power is pitifully weak. Before he can even finish his sentence, Hyunsuk attacks again, unleashing a whirlwind of raw, destructive magic. This explosive power is way beyond Geffen's expectations, and it actually makes him interested in taking Hyunsuk back to the Empire too. Geffen effortlessly blocks the assault and counters. The terrifying impact sends blood gushing from Hyunsuk's mouth, and he's knocked out cold on the spot. "Did I kill him?" Geffen muses, thinking that maybe his sudden rage made his strength flare out of control. Rachel, hiding nearby, is completely shook. She just watched her hero get one shot. Her first instinct is to bolt and go find Popo. After confirming Hyunsuk is still breathing, Geffen pulls out a high tier, holy magic scroll he brought along just in case. But then, an incredibly imposing, female voice purrs from right behind him. "What's all this fuss about? Look like you could use a hand? It's Hermes." Geffen fights to hide his shock as he whips around, realizing with a jolt that he never even sensed her approach. Hermes just smiles playfully. "You know, voracious eater is so impolite," she says. "I much prefer gourmet." Her casual vibe is a horrifying contrast to the carnage all around them. A cold sweat slicks Geffen's skin. The question hammers in his skull, can he even win this? As the Pope's frantic warnings echo in his mind. Whatever you do not fight her. He'd brushed it off before, but now, standing in her presence, it all clicks. He understands the Pope's terror, There's zero demonic aura coming off her, even this close, and that's when the horrifying realization dawns on him. This isn't a power gap, it's a freaking chasm. He's taken down heavy hitters before, but this is a whole new level he's itching to test. In the space of a single heartbeat, Hermes's monstrous aura slams into him like a hurricane. Don't freak out, he screams at himself. Just find an opening, grab the Saintess, and dip. But as the plan forms, a wave of vertigo washes over him. Then he sees it. His own arm is just gone. He completely freezes, his mind blanking. When did that even happen? A wicked grin splits Hermes's face. At least make this interesting for me, she purrs. And just like that, Geffen knows. It's over. He's not just gonna lose, he might not even walk away from this. Mission failed. No other choice. He clamps his jaw shut, shattering the scroll hidden in his mouth as a blinding flash of holy light erupts. An energy blast pure enough to vaporize a normal demon. But Hermes? She just quirks an eyebrow. Trying to run away? Aren't we gonna play a little longer? In a flash, Geffen is gone, completely vanished. Not bad, Hermes muses. His escape game is on point. Of course, she totally let him get away. If she'd actually been trying, she could have killed him 1,000 times over, all within a single minute. For more than 500 years, demons have swarmed this continent, their hordes rising and falling like the tide. An endless cycle of destruction. But in all that time, there have been only two constants: the Demon Lord and Hermes. They're unshakable, like two colossal mountains dominating the landscape. And while the Demon Lord is a ghost, Hermes, the insatiable glutton, is a whole different story. Fast forward to the next day. Hyunsuk is back in the Crucible, getting wrecked by Laudren's training. His master immediately starts tearing into his technique. Your attacks are way too basic, Laudren scolds, and your magic casting is just as straightforward. It's because you lack imagination. That's why all your movements are so predictable and stiff. But then, Laudren's entire vibe shifts. But remember this, he adds, no matter how OP you get, there's always a bigger fish. So, when I'm teaching you, anything goes if it means you win. And with that, the day's training from hell is finally over. The second Laudren is gone. Hyunsuk just faceplants onto the floor. Someone help me, he groans. I'm literally dying. The goddess Rachel's healing light washes over him. Slowly, he starts to feel human again. What am I, your personal health potion now? Rachel gripes. But Hyunsuk is completely zoned out, lost in his own world. I've got nothing to say to you, he mutters. He's replaying Saintess Marie's words in his head. He has to get stronger. Power is the only thing that will let him protect what he believes in. Hearing this, Rachel's jealousy instantly flares up. Are you seriously still thinking about her? You almost died for that woman, you idiot. As they argue, Rachel throws out a solid point. Why would some blonde assassin, who can obviously use holy power, try to smoke a saintess from his own faction? Hyunsuk has to admit, she's got a point. Yeah, as the next in line, she should be a top-tier asset. But Rachel just snaps. We are not talking about her anymore. Why not? He asks. Because you're totally crushing on her. Hyunsuk claps his hands over his ears. Just stop with the jealousy, okay? Flash forward a few dozen minutes, and Hyunsuk is balled up in his room, sobbing his eyes out. I want to quit life, he wails, and I don't ever want to be human again. Popo just stares, having absolutely no idea what to make of this meltdown. See, 10 minutes ago, Hermes called him to her office. She looked him dead in the eye and said she had a huge problem. I'm bored. Hyunsuk's blood runs cold. Oh no, what now? Hermes continues. I want to see something entertaining. You have 1 month. Go take down a battalion commander for me. She clocks the look of pure terror on Hyunsuk's face. Then Hermes holds up a single finger. If you don't think you're up for it, I can always help you, just like I helped Iskalkan. Nope, not necessary at all. Hyunsuk blurts out, promising to get the job done. No problem. So after laying out this whole disaster for Popo, Rachel tells the little guy to say his goodbyes, cause he's not gonna see Hyunsuk for much longer. Then she zips over to our boy. Just accept it, dude, she says, floating beside him. How are you possibly going to beat a battalion commander when your power level is a measly 9,000? Hyunsuk, sprawled out on the table, just groans. I'm already at rock bottom, so I don't mind taking someone with me. He points out that most battalion commanders rock power levels over 40,000. His eyes land on Popo, whose power level is literally off the charts. Hyunsuk sighs. If only Popo could fight for me. Then it hits him. Everyone assumes this is a duel, but Hermes never actually said it had to be one-on-one. He triple checks with Rachel, who confirms there's no duel clause. That means he can use any dirty trick in the book to win. We're talking ambushes, jumping him, bringing Popo. The plan is simple. Bait the commander out, then have Popo lead the charge and gank him. Rachel just shakes her head, a smirk on her face. I can't tell if you're a genius or just a total coward. The crew is facing a huge tactical problem. how to bait the battalion commander out into the open. For Hyunsuk, though, this is a non-issue. He masterfully selects a rack of ribs, using honey to purge the blood, then thinly slices mushrooms, tossing them with a secret blend of spices and garlic, and for garnish, a freaking water-spitting fish. He lets the whole thing simmer on low for 2 agonizing hours, only for it to get scorched. He salvages what he can, scatters some scallions over the unburnt parts, and declares with total confidence that no battalion commander on Earth could turn down this masterpiece. Meanwhile, over in the enemy camp, the peace-loving battalion commander, Doris, is just vibing, kicking back, and enjoying a meal now that he's finally shipped off that problem child, a Zulu. He has finally found his inner peace. But just then, a subordinate rushes in to announce that head chef Hyunsuk is asking to see him. Doris just waves him away, figuring there's no way he's taking a Zulu back. But the soldier clarifies that Hyunsuk is actually here to show his gratitude and wants to cook for him personally. At these words, Doris's eyes practically bulge out of his head. The legends are true, they say. Hyunsuk's cooking could make even the god Hermes drool. He immediately barks an order to let Hyunsuk in. Moments after the soldier scrambles away, Hyunsuk strides in, balancing a massive platter and holding a single red rose between his teeth for maximum dramatic effect. He offers a suave greeting to Doris, causing the commander's face to go beet red and his heart to start hammering against his ribs. But Doris quickly realizes the vibe is off. He forces himself to get a grip. Hyunsuk spins a tale about being eternally grateful for Doris's kindness. A month back, which is how he landed the head chef gig. He sets the platter down, but Doris isn't hearing a word of it. His eyes are completely glued to the food. Forgetting all manners, Doris snatches up a giant rib, absolutely mesmerized by the aroma. He's so desperate to know what it tastes like that he just shoves the meat into his mouth and starts chewing loud and sloppy. A flash of pure, unadulterated killer intent flickers across Hyunsuk's face, gone in an instant. Doris is completely oblivious, just remarking on how ridiculously good the meat is, looking almost embarrassed by his own slobbery display. Hyunsuk plasters on a sickeningly sweet smile and makes his exit. The second he's out of the room, Hyunsuk doubles over and retches, describing the sight he just endured as beyond disgusting, and swearing he's going to butcher that pig. The original plan was to slowly turn Doris into a meat-addicted puppet over a week, before luring him into the forest for the kill. But today, Doris looks seriously stressed and pushes his plate away. He drops a bomb. Tomorrow, he's in a position defense duel, and he's probably going to lose his rank. Doris glances down at his own chubby frame with a bitter laugh and then starts tearing into the meat like a wild animal. A wave of utter despair crashes over Hyunsuk. If this pig gets himself killed in some stupid duel, a whole week of his meticulous planning goes up in smoke. He's convinced there's no way this oaf can win and has the sudden urge to just throttle him. Right then, Doris asks Hyunsuk to come watch the match, calling him his good luck charm. Hyunsuk just nods, silently praying to the heavens that the challenger is somehow even more pathetic than Doris. The next day, after wrapping up his duties, Hyunsuk heads over to the dueling arena. Rachel tries to spin it positively, wondering if maybe the pig will have a sudden glow-up and transform into some kind of super pig. But Hyunsuk isn't even buying his own half-hearted pep talk. He knows there's no such thing as a super pig that weighs over 800 pounds. Down in the arena, it takes Doris a solid 30 minutes just to haul himself up the stairs to the stage. But the moment he spots Hyunsuk in the crowd, Doris beams like it's all been worth it, shouting out to his good luck charm that he knew he'd show up. His opponent is a massive, ripped demon with the head of a deer. So much for Hyunsuk's prayers. A moment later, the referee gives the signal, and the fight is on. The deer demon lunges first with insane speed, but the instant his attack lands, he freezes. Doris, the guy who looked like he could barely walk, has somehow caught the blow and is holding his opponent in place with raw strength. Then, he plants his feet and unleashes a cataclysmic burst of power. The brutal impact literally shatters the entire arena, and even Hyunsuk, watching from the stands, is nearly knocked over by the sheer force of the shockwave. At that moment, Hyunsuk knows for sure that the fight is over, and the winner is the Demon Lord, Doris. After that insane duel, Hyunsuk retreats to his quarters, having seen Doris's terrifying true power. He's positive now that Popo alone stands no chance against him. So, Hyunsuk has to pivot his strategy. He needs to recruit stronger allies, monsters from deep within the hunting forest, to take Doris down together. He's thinking something on the level of the Tarask Queen. And thanks to the intel gathered by the cooking soldiers, Hyunsuk has a complete lay of the land, a smug look of pride spreading across his face. Rachel asks if he's scheming again, and he just confirms it, quoting the old saying about how the enemy of my enemy is my friend. On day 3, deep in the mountain forest, Rachel is clutching her mouth, looking like she's about to hurl at any second. After cramming the entire Beast Encyclopedia for 3 days straight, the sheer volume of information has completely overloaded her brain. She begs him to get a move on before she actually pukes. Hyunsuk just nods and unfolds a map, pointing out that their first target is just 1 kilometer ahead. The cooking squad marked it as a monster known as Simabufi. Rachel immediately jumps in, her new knowledge bubbling up, explaining that in the ancient tongue, the name literally means forest worm, and she adds that 2 other monsters, Mospit and Estunibia, have a similar look. But that idea gets shot down immediately, because Rachel argues the creature is a lightweight that barely packs a punch and won't attack on its own. She sarcastically asks if this goddess has any real talent, and tells him to just call her the beast expert. Hyunsoo is completely floored, but agrees, admitting she's not just skilled but also incredibly sharp. That said, he mutters to himself that even blockheads can learn quickly. Before long, Hyunsuk rallies the entire kitchen squad. He pores over a map, and one specific location immediately snags his attention, because it's marked with a creature described as being covered in steel-like scales and having the appearance of a dragon. Rachel points out that dragon is an incredibly broad term, and those vague descriptions are nowhere near enough to identify the exact species. In Hyunsuk's mind, dragons are supposed to be the apex predators, the beasts with the absolute highest attack power, so he decides he has to check out the territory for himself. After arriving in the dragon's domain, Hyunsuk lays out the day's mission for his kitchen soldiers. He declares they're cleaning the area out, and there's no need to take any of the creatures alive. He gives them full permission to hunt and feast right there on the spot. This announcement sends the kitchen soldiers into a frenzy, like never before, and they roar in celebration. They exclaim that the head chef has finally gotten his priorities straight, and cheer about finally getting to eat their fill of fresh meat. Soon, they begin to absolutely decimate the beast population in the area, but in stark contrast to his troops' wild excitement, Hyunsuk seems agitated. He's wondering why the alpha beast hasn't made an appearance yet, figuring that, by all logic, after slaughtering so many of its underlings, the big boss should have stormed out by now. To keep from wasting the whole day, Hyunsuk decides to force the issue. He commands the kitchen soldiers to start massive fires and begin roasting every single beast they've killed, right then and there. And sure enough, just moments after the massive barbecue gets going, the ground itself begins to tremble violently. At the same time, a glint of excitement flashes in Hyunsuk's eyes. He thinks to himself, is it finally time? Even though he can't see what it is, he feels something massive barreling towards them. In the next instant, a beast smashes through the tree line and reveals itself, its eyes glowing blood red. It's a terrifying, 5-meter-tall behemoth with the head of a dragon, and its entire frame is armored in jet black scales. Hyunsuk immediately activates his power gauge, only to find the reading is immeasurable. He decides this power level is absolutely perfect. Rachel informs him this beast is a Nidhogg, and she warns that its combat strength is on the same level as a battalion commander. As the kitchen soldiers start to break ranks and flee in terror at the sight of the colossal dragon, a smirk plays on Hyunsuk's lips. He tells himself this is their key to defeating Doris, then roars to the group that he's taking the lead. Meanwhile, Laudren is called into Hermes's office. Hermes gets straight to the point and asks what Hyunsuk's been up to. Laudren reports that it's just business as usual, saying he's simply performing his duties as the head chef. But Hermes finds this suspicious, remarking that Hyunsuk has been acting way too tame lately. She presses Laudren, asking if he taught the kid some new insane technique, but Laudren denies it, saying it's just been routine training. Hermes then asks for the odds of Hyunsuk actually defeating a battalion commander, and Laudren's response is brutally honest: 0. Although he agrees Hyunsuk has been quiet, Laudren mentions he's also noticed something odd, having heard a rumor that the boy has been getting surprisingly close with Doris lately. Hermes looks baffled and calls Doris a pig, wondering why someone who boasts about being able to take down a battalion commander is cozying up to one. She admits the situation is fascinating and decides they should just wait and watch how things unfold. Over the next few days, Hyunsuk continues to prepare one exquisite dish after another for Doris. Doris declares the food is absolutely divine and thanks him for yet another barbecue feast. After polishing off 50 plates of grilled meat, Doris lets out a small, satisfied burp. In that exact moment, Hyunsuk lets out a very deliberate, heavy sigh. This sudden change in mood instantly grabs Doris's attention, and he asks what's bothering him, or if something bad has happened. Hyunsuk's eyes begin to glisten with fake tears as he says it's nothing, but then reveals that a huge problem has come up in the kitchen department, and hints that this might be the very last meal he can ever bring him. The sheer gravity of that statement makes Doris shoot to his feet. He demands to know exactly what's going on. With a pained expression, Hyunsuk waves his hands dismissively and explains that Commander Hermes has requested the meat of a special beast, but claims this particular beast is just too strong. He tells Doris that despite fighting for days on end His team still hasn't been able to capture it. This news completely astounds Doris, who says he can't even imagine what kind of beast could be that powerful. Hyunsuk calls it a marble pattern beast, and Doris asks what that is, saying he's never heard of it. And it's noted that it is completely normal that Doris hasn't heard of it, because Hyunsuk literally just made up the name on the spot. Hyunsuk insists this is a matter of life and death, and swears he wouldn't lie about it. Seeing the bind he's in, Doris generously offers to lend him 200 of his own soldiers. However, Hyunsuk turns down the kind gesture. He argues that those soldiers are too weak and says that it wouldn't matter how many they sent, that they would just be tossing their lives into a meat grinder. He dangles the bait. If the magnificent Lord Doris were to personally intervene, this whole mess would probably just vanish. He even sweetens the deal, promising that if Doris steps up, Commander Hermes is totally aware of what he pulled off. Doris is already buzzing, daydreaming about the moment the commander cups his jaw and calls him a legend for succeeding. He's like, "For real? You think he'll actually do that?" But seeing Doris hesitate for a split second, Hyunsuk immediately jumps in, swearing he'll deliver the report to the commander himself. That's all it takes. Doris is in. He puffs out his chest, saying he'll help because, they're buddies. After all, Hyunsuk barely hides a treacherous smile as he lowers his head. "Did you really mean that?" he asks, his voice dripping with false humility. He thanks the Lord for his incredible generosity. At the crack of dawn the next morning, Hyunsuk is leading a massive force toward the forest. Today is the day it all goes down. The mission's codename? Operation Pig Hunt. To seal the deal, he brought out the big guns. From the kitchen crew, the absolute units known as Popo and Azolo. Even though they're ahead of Hermes's deadline, they're kicking things off early. Hyunsuk marches towards Doris's position, and soon, the two armies merge into one, plunging together into the deep woods. And Doris didn't just show up, he brought every last soldier from his battalion. This guy is taking things dead seriously. But for Hyunsuk, this is a massive problem. He stares at the sea of over 500 soldiers, realizing this is way, way too many bodies. All he can do is pray that Nidrake isn't some pushover. After marching for what feels like an eternity, the ground itself begins to shudder violently. Hyunsuk swallows hard, his heart pounding in his chest. It's here. The target is closing in. Doris stretches lazily, hopping down from his carriage and cracking his knuckles, announcing it's time to warm up. In that exact moment, Nidrak smashes through the tree line and reveals its monstrous form, letting out a roar that shakes the entire landscape. The beast's bizarre shriek makes Doris's brow furrow in confusion. He mutters that while it's the right creature, the one they call the marble pattern beast, he feels a strange sense of déjà vu. Doris drifts into thought, as if trying to recall a past encounter with a Nidhogg somewhere. Hyunsuk immediately snaps him out of it, cutting in with, "Don't all beasts kinda look the same though?" And believe it or not, Doris buys it completely, laughing it off and agreeing. He then declares he's got this one handled, giving Hyunsuk a pointed look and reminding him to report his epic deeds to the commander. With a final, arrogant smirk, Doris charges in alone. A wicked grin spreads across Hyunsuk's face as he promises to report every single detail of what's about to happen. And then, the battle begins. Doris and Nidrake collide in a storm of violence. Each impact sends shockwaves through the earth, cracking the ground and vaporizing boulders. Hidden in Hyunsuk's embrace, Rachel whispers urgently, "When are we making our move?" At this rate, that pig is actually going to kill Nidrake, but Hyunsuk's eyes are wide with stunned disbelief. He never, ever, imagined Doris would resort to using his own battalion as human shields, letting them absorb Nidrake's brutal attacks, while he remains basically untouched. Just as the chaos reaches its peak, a soldier sprints toward them, his face a mask of pure terror, screaming that another monster is attacking from the rear. This completely shatters Hyunsuk's carefully laid plans. He thought this was Nidrake's turf, and common sense dictates that these beasts don't invade each other's territory. A moment later, the ground itself rips apart, and a gigantic worm-like behemoth bursts from the earth. Rachel recognizes it instantly, shouting, "Sima Buffy, what is that thing doing here?" Hyunsuk lets out a roar of pure frustration, and it wasn't the last one. From every corner of the forest, the apex predators began to emerge, one after another. This was a complete and utter disaster. Realizing he's hopelessly outmatched, Doris immediately bellows the order for a full retreat. Rachel's voice is laced with panic. "What do we do now? We can't just let him leave." Hyunsuk knows better than anyone that if Doris escapes, he's the one who won't be leaving this forest alive. He forces himself to take a desperate, calming breath, and then, his voice low and steady, he utters 4 words. Laudrin combat technique, first form. Doris looks at him, utterly bewildered. What are you even talking about? But in less than a heartbeat, Hyunsuk's fist, heavy as stone, smashes directly into Doris's gut. Hyunsuk's voice then booms over the chaos. "Cancel that order. We are not retreating. Listen to me. Fight with everything you have. There is no turning back. Only the survivors earn the right to feast at our victory party. His voice thunders, momentarily silencing the forest's madness. Meanwhile, the winded Doris spirals into a dark train of thought. He contemplates what truly enrages a demon. Is it being beaten to a pulp? Or losing a battle for succession? No, he concludes. It's neither of those. It's the sting of betrayal from an insect, a worthless human. He's so furious he can barely think straight. After he showed Hyunsuk such kindness, the human had the audacity to betray him. A malevolent, crimson light explodes from Doris's eyes, his mind consumed by a single burning desire, to kill Hyunsuk. His decision made, he unleashes his final, terrifying power, Demon Bloodline, second stage bloom. It's a terrifying technique, one that devours the user's very life force in exchange for overwhelming power. Hyunsuk is frozen solid, and even Rachel is screaming at him to run for his life. Doris's assault is pure chaos, a death sentence for anything it touches. A tidal wave of battle aura erupts from his body, annihilating everything in its path. The semi-boofy beast next to Doris, vaporized in an instant. Luckily, Hyunsuk had just enough distance to survive. He escapes the worst of it, but Doris's fury is nowhere near satisfied. The demon commander roars, promising to rip Hyunsuk limb from limb. In this do-or-die situation, Hyunsuk suddenly remembers his two aces in the hole, Popo and Azolo. He desperately asks where they are. Rachel's face sinks. She tells him they were probably dragged into the semi-boofy's lair. The news hits him like a truck. A wave of pure despair washes over Hyunsuk. He's on his own against Doris, a suicide mission. But just then, Doris's superpowered body convulses. He lets out two hacking coughs, a trickle of blood staining his lips, and that's when it clicks for Hyunsuk. That insane power-up? It comes with a massive price. Without a second's hesitation, Hyunsuk bolts. "Rachel, what monsters are nearby?" he yells. She points him toward his 11 o'clock. She tells him to keep sprinting and he'll hit the ogre territory. These things are absolute tanks, with a combat power that's usually over 30,000. But to Doris in this berserker mode, the ogres are nothing more than flies to be swatted. For a solid 10 minutes, it's a brutal game of cat and mouse. Doris is getting seriously tired of this chase. He skids to a halt and unleashes the third stage of bloom. A tsunami of raw energy erupts from his core. But in that exact moment, a crippling pain shoots through Doris's chest. He doubles over, coughing up huge mouthfuls of blood. Rachel can feel it. His demonic energy is draining at an insane rate. Doris is thinking, what the hell is going on? Am I already hitting my limit? He realizes he burned through way too much stamina during that chase. This is bad. This is really bad. Doris immediately pivots and bolts. "Hey, where you going, pal?" Hyunsuk shouts. "We're not done yet." Doris screams back that once he gets his strength back, Hyunsuk is dead meat. But maybe his stamina is completely shot, because he only makes it a few steps before Hyunsuk is right on his tail. Nowhere to run, Hyunsuk snarls, channeling every last drop of mana into his fist for the Laudrin combat technique. 7th form, destruction, shockwave. But get this, even completely gassed, Doris somehow manages to catch his strongest attack head-on. Their auras clash in a blinding explosion, but then some unknown power smashes into the fight, sending Hyunsuk flying backward. He's like, "What just happened?" He looks up and sees Doris groveling, clinging to Hermes' leg, and begging her to save him. But Hermes' only response is a terrifying burst of demonic power. She just tells him to shut his mouth. She sneers, asking how he could possibly be pathetic enough to get wrecked this hard by a single human. Doris instantly goes quiet. Seizing the moment while they're distracted, Hyunsuk dashes in. "Just like we agreed," he says. "I have officially defeated a battalion commander." And the second those words leave his mouth, Hyunsuk's foot connects hard with the back of Doris's head. He just smirks. "Technically, I'm not wrong. I did just defeat a battalion commander." Hermes' massive lips curve into a terrifying grin. "Well now, you're an interesting one," she says, before bursting into uncontrollable laughter. Back in her office, Hermes is grilling him. "So, I told you to defeat a battalion commander, and this was your master plan?" She admits he used every dirty trick in the book, but she never imagined he'd throw her entire army into total chaos. After Hyunsuk lays out his logic, Hermes just loses it, cracking up and asking what in the world is going on inside his head to come up with this stuff. "Seriously," she says, "I'd love to crack that skull open and take a look." Hyunsuk literally freezes on the spot. He's like, please don't," asking her to maybe rein in that curiosity, and he'd be super grateful. Hermes knows he found a loophole in her command, but since it's his first time pulling a stunt like this, she reluctantly admits he passed the mission. "I don't like it," she snarls. "And don't you ever pull something like this again." Hyunsuk can only bow his head like a total suck-up and say, "Yes, my lord. Thank you so much." Back at Popo's place, Hyunsuk just collapses onto the floor, letting out a massive sigh. He genuinely thought he was a goner. He mutters about how today was an absolute nightmare. Every single second felt like walking on a razor's edge. Then he starts thinking about that power-up Doris used, guessing it must be some kind of martial art, exclusive to the demon race. Rachel figures they should probably ask Loudron about it. Hearing them talk, Popo, who'd been resting, cautiously pokes its head out and lets out a little chirp. Hyunsuk just smiles. Yeah, I know. You worked hard today too, little guy. He apologizes to Popo, saying he's sorry he couldn't protect him better. Hearing that, Popo chirps back like crazy. It's like he's saying, it's all good. Hyunsuk just keeps petting Popo's head, thinking about how adorable he is. He admits he actually feels a little guilty about Doris. The commander wasn't a terrible guy to him, and in the end, Hyunsuk played him for a fool. Rachel's eyes turn to ice as she challenges him, saying he doesn't look the slightest bit sorry for his actions. Hyunsuk buries his face in his hands, pleading, "No, I'm so sorry," but a massive smirk peeks right through his fingers. "Get your hands off your face," Rachel snaps, totally busting him. "You're literally smiling right now." After wiping the floor with Doris, Hyunsuk's level skyrockets to 420, and his combat power hits a staggering 13,936. Perfect, he thinks to himself. Deciding to ride this wave of momentum all the way, Rachel slides over a huge mug of beer, proposing a victory toast for crushing Doris. Fast forward 3 days to the crack of dawn. Hyunsuk is already at the training grounds, a full half hour before even Loudron shows up. When the commander finally arrives, Hyunsuk gives him a sharp greeting. Loudron nods, congratulating him on the win against Doris. Hyunsuk throws a quick thanks and strolls closer, using the moment to ask if Loudron knows anything about battle aura. Loudron's eyes drift shut in deep thought. After a beat, he nods, admitting that while the timing is a bit rushed, for a guy like Hyunsuk, it should be manageable. The truth is, Loudron planned to introduce battle aura way down the line because of how incredibly dangerous it is. He warns that trying to master battle aura without a rock-solid foundation can completely wreck a person's body. Loudron starts breaking down the concept, explaining it splits into 2 main categories. The first is a tangible aura that moves in predictable, structured patterns. The second is an intangible aura, formless like a flowing current, with no pattern at all. He points out that compared to the standard version, the intangible kind is way more uncommon, and that Bloom of Blossom technique Doris used falls squarely into that intangible category. As Hyunsuk processes it, the first type sounds like a straight-up attack skill, while the second is more of a self-buff. Loudron adds that the evolution form is an ancient combat art, and that anyone with demon energy can technically learn it, but almost no one does because of the absolutely brutal side effects. Hyunsuk's mind starts racing. He wonders aloud if he could also learn this evolution form, pointing out that he seems to have some dark magic kicking around inside him. But Loudron shuts that down, explaining it's just residual energy in his body, not something he generates himself. Hyunsuk pushes back, arguing it shouldn't be an issue and that even if things go south, they have Lady Mariette as a safety net. He makes it crystal clear. He wants to learn this technique, no matter how risky it is. Loudron just pinches the bridge of his nose, bowing his head as he thinks it over for what feels like an eternity. Not missing a beat, Hyunsuk drops to his knees and grabs Loudron's leg, wailing that if he doesn't teach him, he's a dead man. He reminds the commander just how intense Hermes can be, predicting she might throw him into a duel with a regiment commander by tomorrow. Worn down by the desperate begging, Loudron finally caves but gives him a final warning. Be ready, because this could cost him his life. I get it, Hyunsuk says grimly. Every single second I'm here, I'm already rolling the dice on my life. With that, Loudron says, all right, let's begin. Meanwhile, deep in the underground prison of the Gelen Empire's cathedral, the Pope stands before a man hanging in chains, battered and bleeding. It's none other than Osil Geffen. After botching the mission to rescue the Santis, he's been branded a criminal. His cracked lips tremble as he asks the Pope, is it time for another round of this? Penance? His voice dripping with scorn for the torture. The Pope just nods, confirming Geffen's grim guess. I'm giving you a chance to redeem yourself, he says. The Pope's sickly sweet words make Geffen want to vomit, but he's not ready to die. Not yet. What's the chance? He rasps. The Pope's face hardens into a mask of cold fury. Your mission is to eliminate Abelson Marriott. Geffen thinks he heard wrong. What did you say? Why would I? That makes 0 sense. What do we possibly gain by killing a candidate for Santis? The Pope offers no answers. You don't need to know the reason, is all he says. Geffen just shakes his head. I can't take this mission. The glutton in the Black Castle. He's on another level. I can't handle him. Hearing that, the Pope's harsh expression melts away in an instant. Don't you worry, he coos. We'll make our move when the glutton isn't around. Plus, he adds, I'm sending 3 elite knights to back you up. This time, you have to succeed. His voice drops to a deadly whisper. On the path to glory, failure is simply not an option. Back on the other side of the world, after trying evolution form for the first time, Hyunsuk is on the ground, foaming at the mouth and barely conscious. Thankfully, Loudrin had the sense to call for Mariette. She arrives, absolutely livid. Are you two completely insane? Making a human use a combat art that was literally built for demons? Loudrin tries to defend himself, saying Hyunsuk insisted he was fine, and that over time, the demonic energy left in his system was supposed to fade anyway. Mariette gives Loudrin a death glare. Are you a cleric now? How can you possibly say something is safe when you have zero expertise? If this is left untreated, Hyunsuk's chances of survival are plummeting below 1%. Mariette confesses that the demonic energy she had painstakingly sealed within him has now been completely unleashed. In this dire scenario, she declares there's only one shot left, to fully integrate the demonic power directly into the boy's flesh and bone. She hammers home that this is a whole different ballgame from before, when the power was just a stain on his soul. This is a radical re-engineering of his entire species, an evolution that defies all logic. She lays out the insane plan. She'll use holy power to pin down the demonic energy, then carefully spread it, diluting its concentration in every cell until it hits a level his body won't reject. A shadow crosses Loudrin's face as he asks if this is even remotely possible. Mariette admits she's flying blind. Having never attempted anything like this, it's completely uncharted territory. She adds, there's also a high probability that the demonic energy will lash out against the holy power and simply go nuclear. Mariette clutches Hyunsuk's hand, her resolve hardening, declaring they have no choice but to take the risk. As her words echo, a brilliant golden light detonates, bathing the room, and a torrent of holy power surges from her body, pouring into Hyunsuk's. 3 days later, Hyunsuk groans, his eyes fluttering open, trying to piece together what just went down. Before he can even sit up, Popo and Rachel are at his bedside in a flash. They're shouting with relief that he's finally back, that their hero has woken up at last. Rachel leans in close, her eyes searching his, asking if he's okay. Hyunsuk croaks out that he's fine. His memory is a blank after learning the evolution form, but he feels like his body is surprisingly normal. That is, until Hyunsuk pulls up his status window, and his worst fear becomes reality. The strange box symbol that appeared on his screen a while back has now morphed into the words, demon energy. He looks at Rachel, his voice hollow. I'm so screwed, he says. How can a hero possibly have demon energy? Just as he's processing this, Hermes and Loudrin sweep into the room, having heard the news. Hermes smirks, mentioning she told Loudrin he'd pull through. After getting the full rundown from Loudrin, she finds the whole situation fascinating, this wild idea of converting demonic energy into human strength. Why didn't you tell me about such a fun little experiment? She purrs, and then her voice drops, turning icy. Hermes notes that maybe there's a reason humans call Mariette a saintess after all, to have kept him alive through all that. How about, she whispers, I give you a little boost. In an instant, a sinister smile splits Hermes' face, and she glides toward him, unleashing a tidal wave of her own magic. Hyunsuk scrambles back, but it's too late. An overwhelming torrent of magic floods his system. The pain is blinding, and his consciousness begins to fray. Hermes tells a panicked Loudrin not to worry, promising he'll be fine. It's all right, she coos to Hyunsuk. Just go to sleep now. You should be honored. With that bizarre parting shot, his world goes black. Hermes then turns to Loudrin, informing him that the demon lord has summoned her and she must depart, adding that she has a task to entrust him with. In what feels like a blink, 3 more days have vanished since Hermes' departure. The wrecked Hyunsuk thankfully makes a swift recovery, entirely due to Mariette's tireless efforts. Throughout these days, she has watched over him with meticulous care. Hyunsuk expresses his gratitude to Lady Mariette, but she brushes it off, insisting it was his own sheer force of will that saw him through the ordeal. Then, out of nowhere, Mariette quietly says, "You are my only hope." The statement leaves Hyunsuk totally baffled, but Mariette clams up, refusing to elaborate. She simply announces that his treatment for the day is done. As she walks away, Hyunsuk is left reeling, wondering why she keeps dropping these cryptic bombs on him and what secrets she's really hiding. The second Mariette is gone, Hyunsuk hunts down Loudrin, asking to get back to his training. Loudrin gives him a worried look, questioning if he's seriously ready for that. Hyunsuk reassures him, quoting Lady Mariette's own words that it's fine as long as he doesn't tap into his magic. But as Hyunsuk talks, Loudrin's mind is a million miles away. It's been 3 days since Commander Hermes left for the Demon Lord's castle. He recalls that this summit is an annual thing, but this year, for some unexplainable reason, a deep sense of dread is twisting in his gut. It takes several calls from Hyunsuk to finally pull Loudrin out of his thoughts. Hyunsuk observes that he must be swamped lately, having to shoulder all of the Legion commander's duties alone. He offers to help out in any way he can. Laudren just shakes his head, saying it's nothing. He forces a smile, claiming the commander will return soon, telling Hyunsuk not to worry about him and just focus on his own recovery. The kind words strike a chord with Hyunsuk, who immediately bows low, promising he will. Seeing that bright, earnest expression, another thought strikes Laudren. He can see it now. Hyunsuk has undeniably gotten stronger, even if the kid himself hasn't clocked it yet. He wonders if this growth spurt is his body, finally adapting to the demonic power, or maybe getting tougher as it learns to coexist with it. But as he mulls over the possibilities, Laudren's expression suddenly freezes. He feels it, a new power radiating from the boy. This is holy power. Deep inside the Demon Army's 3rd Legion headquarters, an alien energy prickles Laudren's senses its holy power. Now, he knows candidate Saint Mariette is here, but this ain't her. The chilling realization hits him. Someone is masking their sacred energy. His senses pick up 4 distinct signatures, all cloaked, all lurking. Looks like something's about to go down, Laudren mutters. His abrupt declaration makes Hyunsuk jump. Go down? What's going down? But Laudren is already moving. No time to explain. You stay put, he commands. The intruders are creeping forward, clearly trying to keep their approach on the down low. Meanwhile, the knights are getting cocky, thinking their infiltration is a cakewalk. Guess the glutton really isn't here. Huh, one whispers. But while the knights are chilling, Geffen is all business, hissing, keep your voices down. He warns them. The glutton might be gone, but there's another monster prowling this castle. They call him the Red Nightmare. And right on cue, as the words leave his lips, Laudren appears from the shadows, blocking their path. The 4 hooded figures freeze, their shock palpable. The moment they lay eyes on him, one of them gasps. It's the Red Nightmare. This guy's demonic aura is off the charts. Everyone, stay frosty, he yells. Geffen, the leader, immediately barks out orders to his squad. He points, Lucas, Nell, you find Saintess Mariette. Orca, you're with me. We're taking on the Red Nightmare. Laudren narrows his eyes, focusing on the leader. He can't help but frown. This dude is at least division commander level, and his eyes are glowing with a terrifying madness. He can feel the immense magical energy pouring off Geffen. So, their goal is to bust Mariette out. Laudren figures if they're on a mission this critical, they must have sent their absolute best operators. Suddenly, Hyunsuk's voice cuts through the tension from behind. This looks like a whole situation, so I came running. Didn't I tell you to stay back and wait? Laudren snaps. But inside, a wave of gratitude washes over him. Listen, he says, his voice low and urgent. They're after the Saintess. As he speaks, he rips a necklace from his own neck and shoves it into Hyunsuk's hand. Take her and bolt, now. Use this necklace to summon the senior officers, it's your proof. Hyunsuk gives a sharp nod, no hesitation. Got it. At that exact moment, the enemy squad surges forward. Geffen clashes with Laudren in a brutal explosion of force. Stop that guy, Geffen roars, seeing Hyunsuk move. If he gets away, this whole op is screwed. 2 knights immediately peel off, sprinting after Hyunsuk. Laudren snarls, you're not taking the Saintess anywhere without the commander's permission. In one fluid motion, Laudren pivots and slams his fist straight into the stone floor, roaring. Laudren combat technique, 7th form, explosion, shockwave. The instant his knuckles connect, a deafening boom echoes through the halls. The very ground ripples and shatters. The blast gives Hyunsuk the opening he needs, letting him escape the pursuing knights. He sprints full tilt toward Mariette's chambers when, out of nowhere, the hero system blares to life in his mind. A notification flashes. Evil villains are attempting to assassinate Abelson Mariette. As the hero, you are duty-bound to protect the candidate Saintess. The objective? Safeguard her life. The reward? 1,000 hero points. Hyunsuk almost stumbles. Evil villains? He's pretty sure this squad is a rescue team sent by the Holy Jalen Empire, you know? The supposed good guys. On top of that, the reward is insane. A bounty of 1,000 hero points is legendary. Shaking the confusing thoughts from his head, Hyunsuk smashes through the doors to the Saintess's room. The Minotaur guards see the necklace in his hand and don't even try to stop him. Invaders are here, Hyunsuk yells. One of the Minotaurs declares, by Laudren's command, we will hold this ground to our last breath. No one gets through. Human, take the Saintess and run, they bellow. With no time to waste, Hyunsuk sweeps Mariette up into a princess carry. Forgive the intrusion, he says breathlessly. Meanwhile, across the fortress in the 3rd Legion's conference room, Commander Roigel is in the middle of a high-level briefing with his officers. With 2 commanders stationed at the Black Castle, each is supposed to have 5 battalion commanders under them, but since Doris fell in combat, only 9 remain. The meeting is interrupted when a goblin bursts in, screaming about an emergency. Humans are storming the castle. They're after the Saintess, he screeches. Roigel has no idea what the heck is going on. He steps outside to find Hyunsuk. The commander looks almost perfectly human. Hyun-suk instantly recognizes him. It's the high-ranking demon from Doris's promotion battle. Royal demands, report. Explain exactly what happened. Hyun-suk presents Laudren's necklace and rapidly recounts the entire chaotic scene. When he finishes, Royal just looks completely baffled. Humans trying to kill the Saintess? How is that even possible? But the very next second, as if sensing something, Royal's eyes go wide. Everyone, get down, he screams. And he was right. Two shadowy figures drop from the ceiling, their blades aimed directly for the Saintess. Royal instantly throws up a hand, casting action restraint. He tries to lock down the assassins, but instantly clocks the massive distance. There's no way he can close the gap in time. And just like the hero quest laid out, this squad isn't here to save the Saintess. Their mission is to eliminate her. Razor-sharp steel screams towards them, carrying enough force to tear through solid rock. Then, out of nowhere, Hyun-suk unleashes the Laudren combat technique, 7th form. Explosion, shockwave. In a make-or-break moment, he slams into the attackers, landing a perfect hit.